93.3 W228CX, Indianapolis.
Indy Sports Center. Whether your team is playing or not. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
What in the hell do you think you're doing?
Hey, John Boy.
I'm telling you straight, it's my way or the highway. So anybody wants to walk, do it now.
Hey, everybody, we're all gonna get late.
Kick is up, and it is long enough, and it is good. Adam Vinatieri, at age 45, drills one from 57 yards out.
Was kept alive by Oladipo, and Sabonis with a left hand.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV, FM 107.5 and 1070 The Fan.
Hey, welcome in on a Tuesday. You guys are asking me about the weather. It's like I'm a staff meteorologist now, even though I'm not here, because we have what is called and what I have coined. This has been me. What I have coined the phrase over the years, jacket off weather. And apparently we may end up getting some of that today. However, I don't know if it's going to be officially jacket off weather, because most of this is supposed to come down or happen right? While the normal broadcast windows occur. So maybe not. We shall see, and we will keep you updated. Big show going for you today. I know Phillip Rivers was meeting with the media, the local media here with the Colts via Zoom. We'll talk to Zak Keefer about that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. You know, I mentioned this yesterday, and I would advise you, if you're a huge Colts fan and you have been starving for really good information, and you haven't heard yet Daniel Jeremiah from our show on Friday, we have received a great deal of input regarding that, and he just comes at you regarding Rivers and that connection with the Colts coming up here this season. He comes at it from a completely different angle. You know, he's not a guy that just, has watched it on TV or watched a couple of games or watched the Colts play in Southern California in week number 1 of a year ago. He actually is the Chargers analyst, and he's a guy that does all the film work because that's just his trade. That's what he's known for, and had a great deal to say regarding Phillip Rivers and this season with the Colts. That, with the Colts in mind, they're hoping that it leads to another season. That's how you will know that this venture, $25 million in 1 year, has been successful. If the level of play and the success of this team, if it calls for them absolutely bringing him back, if it calls for him wanting to return, as a 39, going to be a 40-year-old coming up in year number 2 here, that's how you know that everything worked out, because there's still a chance. I mean, in the NFL, and really in any professional sports, there's always a chance. I mean, very few times do you have, what's the term, playing with house money? Shout out to the casinos that are about ready to return, right? Now, we had Chris Hagan on the show yesterday, and the casinos are open now in Vegas, and he's going to Vegas. Playing with house money is a term that's used all the time. The one that we use for Trey Burton here, the Colts tight end that was signed after he was cut loose by the Bears, is low risk, high reward. This is not a low risk, high reward situation for the Colts at quarterback. Trey Burton is. I mean, the Bears are paying a lot of his salary. That is a need position that we haven't talked at great length about, because there's been a lot of other stuff. I mean, really, when you make a mammoth quarterback decision, as the Colts did this offseason, that, because just how that position is under the microscope, is going to be, for the most part, the conversation. Now, it's going to be dominant, there's no doubt, and it has. We have talked very little about the tight end position. And everybody feels good about Jack Doyle, just being that guy, a guy you can count on, but they are going to need much more. They're going to need Trey Burton. They're going to need him. Now, Mo Alley Cox, what was it, about a month ago when Frank Reich got on the Zoom call and talked about Mo Alley-Cox and giving him an elevated level of responsibility and opportunity this year. And when you think about it, I mean, the opportunity is going to be interesting to see how that is spread around with this team. And again, make no mistake, if for not his entire career, certainly for the most part of his career, Phillip Rivers has had what with the Chargers? He has had a go-to tight end. That has been a staple of his existence. And I would sit here and tell you that we probably haven't talked enough about the tight end position. We talked about everything else, but we probably haven't talked enough about the tight end position. But Trey Burton is a low-risk, high-reward. Everybody with the Bears thinks the guy was toast and didn't do what he was supposed to do, and certainly did not stir the echoes of the time that he had spent going and winning a Super Bowl with the Eagles. Didn't bring that at all in his time in Chicago. He was expendable. He ends up here. He makes that reconnection with Frank Reich, and we'll see what happens. They're hoping that Mo Alley-Cox can take that step up. And again, that is a vital position that we haven't talked much about. And again, in the past, that Phillip Rivers has leaned on heavily, has banked on that position producing. But Phillip Rivers is not playing with house money, is not low risk, high reward. It is a have to. Now, it doesn't damage you for the future as far as the salary cap is concerned. I mean, you give $25 million and, right, if it doesn't work out, I mean, you're going to have more problems than just paying a 38-year-old man $25 million. I mean, financially, so what, right? Yeah, I know that's tough, but that's financially, just go, whatever, you pay him what is the going amount for a free agent quarterback with the history like he has had, and then you kind of roll with it. So, and you kind of look at it this way, well, at least you're not tied in for the foreseeable future with an old quarterback that's done. If you look at it that way, if you're looking at it negatively. But if it doesn't work, I mean, it does have ramifications. It does not come without consequences. And then you're back to square one at that position. And then basically, each time you have tried to do something with it outside of the name Andrew Luck, it has not worked. And then you have, for the foreseeable future, you really have no option. What option do you have? What are you counting on? I mean, you're back into it. So, yeah, you would rather things work out with Rivers. He moves his family here. You would rather him fit right in with guys that he knows, Reich, Sirianni, with an offense in which the day that we talked to him after he was officially signed, he told us, I've got 85% of this playbook down. And believe me, connection, stuff that you already know is going to be vital this NFL season. I mean, vital. Dealing with somebody that understands and not having to go all the way to the grassroots level of teaching because you just have not had the time or the normal preparation ability that everybody has had in the past. It's just not there. It's not going to be there. This is going to be, no matter what you say, it's going to be incredibly rushed. So having somebody that appears to have this thing down and then can grasp ultimately some cohesion with this offensive unit is going to be incredibly important. I'll give you a great example. It'll probably come back to bite me. They'll probably be the best within the NFC South. But look at a team like Carolina for a moment. I mean, you got the feature back in McCaffrey, but you have a new head coach. You have a new quarter. Everything is going to be new. And then everybody right now to this point is learning by virtue of Zoom and working out at home. Well, we got and everybody can have great workouts. How are you guys working out at home? Everybody can have great workouts. But how's that going to end up translating? Where are you going to be? I mean, anybody here think that Carolina is going to do anything but struggle? And really, they may have anyway making that transition. But at the same time, this is a transition that you're making, and You're just not going to get that valued, consistent ability with some one-on-one time other than via Zoom. That's going to make it incredibly difficult. We had Clyde Christensen, the quarterback's coach of the Buccaneers, on this show, and he said, you know what, we have a new quarterback here, but I make no mistake, I mean, it's Tom Brady, and we trust that connection is going to be quickly made. You know, here it was about working with Phillip Rivers in the past. Other places, it's just going to simply be about the cohesion that's already been established, and can you raise the bar for that even more? Like Tennessee, you know, they found what they've been looking for at quarterback for a while that Marcus Mariota never was, with Ryan Tannehill, and hoping they can build that up another notch. A lot of people kind of thinking, well, maybe not so much. Not that big of a believer in Ryan Tannehill. But it's kind of interesting with the way you look at how teams have to evolve, have to get better by virtue of the circumstances in which they're working with right now. And we all know this with the NBA or the NFL. It makes it incredibly difficult. I mean, they've got all this stuff down to a precision science, and their world has been completely thrown out of whack. We're going to see a lot of out of whack, which to me, and especially with the sports coming back, I don't know so much about hockey because I don't pay a great deal of attention, but with the sports that are coming back, and I'm going to sit here and assume, and maybe that's too much, I'm going to sit here and assume that at some point in the not-so-distant future that Major League Baseball is going to get all their crap in order and say, you know what, the one thing we can't do, somebody's going to lose some money in this. There's just no way around it because, frankly, most of us out there, we are. That's what we've been dealing with. Somebody is going to lose some money. No question about that. So what do? The one thing you have to do, your number one priority, is participation. I mean, that's what should come out of this. Just to give everybody, you know, like that's that term, that phrase is just so awful, right? In our sports era now. What do they call it? A lexicon? That's a huge word for me. I just kind of yanked that out of my rear end. The lexicon, the sports lexicon of phrases right there. Participation trophy or words is not good. That's what you need from MLB. Just get together and give yourself a participation trophy, whether it's 48 or 60 or 76 or whatever it's going to be. You got to be active and you got to be out there. And I've said this all along regarding the return of sports. The most interesting aspect for me is everybody is now completely out of the norm. I mean, they are out of their comfort zone, absolutely. I'm kind of interested, not even kind of, I'm incredibly interested to see their response. Just out of the norm. Everybody. Honestly, we've been out of the norm here for 3.5 months, with the exception of a day here or there, for about 3.5 months. Yeah, we've responded. I know Kyle and I, we come in here every day. You know, I have a plan. I talk to him about some stuff, and we kind of move forward. You know, just making sure that you have that spot to go where, you know what, everything is in, and I want to say disarray, but everything is just incredibly unusual in your life and has been for 3.5 months. Give me some normal. And then you turn here at 3 o'clock and you get some normal. You got me trying to make up big words. You got jacket off weather coming up. I mean, you get all, that's normal. All right. Yeah, he's still as dumb as he was. The entertainment with me that is going to be coming up, whether it's the NBA and then ultimately at some point when MLB finally, just for a moment, for just one sense of everybody else gets on the same page and we get to see a little baseball, that's what's going to be most interesting about it, is how these teams respond. Let's say MLB, our friend Tucker Barnhart, my Red Legs, get, 3 weeks of participation in some sort of summer training, extended spring training, extended spring training. I picked them to win the Central because I'm a homer. It's really the only place besides Eastern Green and Indiana State I can be a homer, so what are you going to do? So I'm a homer. I pick them to win the Central. I can't wait to see how they respond once they start playing. Got a lot of names, added a lot. Tucker tells me about the pitching that he likes a great deal. Certainly was liking spring training in Arizona before everybody was halted. Couple of bats added to the lineup, a lot of offense. I'm very excited. But now, you're not going to get time to find your groove. Say, for example, they have 60 games or 76 games or 48, as I've talked about already. Listen, I told you a couple of weeks ago that that's probably going to be the plan. That's probably going to be the plan. That's probably going to tell you that these sides aren't anywhere near close together. But Rob Manfred just said, all right, here's the number 48. Go out and play and see what happens. You don't have time to slowly adjust to things. Yeah, I had a bad run. I scuffled a little bit out of the box. By the time a couple of months in, I got back on track. You can't afford to scuffle anytime. God, every game is going to be huge. I kind of find that interesting. Who's going to be ready? You automatically say, well, the teams that are stacked, talented, stacked. But that's the part that sticks out to me maybe more than anything else regarding baseball. If you're cut down to 48 or if you even upgrade to 60, whatever the case might be, you absolutely have to get off to a good start. You scuffle 5, 6, 7 losses consecutively, you're thinking about next year. The NBA is even more interesting because we've seen that product already. We kind of have a vision. We have an image in our mind of an expectation. And frankly, I sit here and tell you right now, I don't know if that image is going to be accurate. I don't know what to expect. And I laugh because part of me sits here. Remember when it was reported the first couple of weeks that, Giannis, who is right now arguably, maybe not, the greatest, the best player on the planet in basketball, and initially it was reported that he did not have a hoop at his home, which is awesome. It is awesome. Did he go out and get one of those? Did he get one of those that you put salt or you water in or something at the bottom and just, what I'm talking about? Did you go out and get one? But they were clear. The absolute best. Their offense, even though I couldn't stand it because watching Lopez is, I should love it too, and I feel so bad about it. It's like I don't like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, yet I am cut and dry Mr. 80s here, right? But for some reason, I'm not a big Bill and Ted fan. I love watching shooters. I love taking three-pointers from distance. But watching the Lopez twins do it, I just can't stand it. I don't know if it's just them. I don't like watching them in games or what. That is something I should love, I should embrace, I should talk about. But there's nothing I hate worse in the NBA right now is watching a Lopez. And then it was bad enough that Brooke did it and then got good at it and did it all the time. And now that's his game, essentially. But then Robin started doing it. And then they're playing on the same team. I don't care. You could have 15 Giannis's out there, and I still don't want to watch your team because of that. I should embrace it. But really, it works so well. Mike Budenholzer's offense is just, cut and dry. What that team and how that team works its best is perfect. Is it going to be? You going to come back and see that same type of production? Nobody knows. We talked about it with the Pacers here, how long it took them to really come together. And we saw those final 2 weeks before the season was stopped. We started to see the cohesion, especially with the big guys. But that cohesion was without, at the time, Malcolm Brogdon. Now you reinstate Malcolm Brogdon back from injury, see where Vic is going to be. Like Kevin and Bowen and I, we'll do this, I'm sure, again tomorrow, too. Kevin Bowen and I go back and forth about what Vic is going to look like. I contend that the edge is given to Vic because Vic hadn't been playing, and you wish you did play real basketball against real competitors that are in line with your level of talent. But is it really going to hurt him as much because the rest of the NBA landscape haven't been playing either? I mean, LeBron James, Anthony Davis riding bikes around downtown in Los Angeles. I mean, they haven't been doing anything either. This thing, in all likelihood, is going to be completely discombobulated, and it's perfect. Because we've all been completely discombobulated, and it hasn't been so perfect. So let's see how these guys respond now, right? That's what makes it the most interesting to me. No idea. Again, we have that image in our mind what to expect. It's probably going to be completely opposite. We shall see. Greg Rakestraw, bottom of the hour, is going to join us. We'll talk about a lot of things, including high school. You know, I do see that high school sports starting slowly to return. I did. I played on some. I'm not going to tell you where I played. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. But I found a little bit of a run on Sunday, and I sucked awful. I was terrible. I was haywire. But it felt good to get back. That was the longest time I've ever not played. It was good to get back. Good to see some of the dudes I normally play with. But, yeah, back as of Sunday. I think the sleep thing really did my body. I needed to hibernate, I think, a little bit. I went into a 3.5-month hibernation. Like, I was out there playing, and the guys go, man, it feels so weird. It feels weird to play again. You know, it feels weird to live. And I said, it feels weird for me to be awake. Normally, I'm asleep. It's weird. What is this, 9:30 at night, and I'm awake stuff? So it's going to be, we're going to see. I like the way my body feels coming out of its hibernation at the age of 50. And as I mentioned, high schools are starting to get stuff going again. I'm sure a lot of you that have youth sports on your mind, too. You got kids that were participating and it was stopped. You have kids that were supposed to participate and it has yet to get underway. That looks like it's all coming back and starting as well. And Greg's done a really good job. Of keeping us updated, along with Bob Lovell, too, of what is going on the high school level, what to expect, so on and so forth. Greg's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about that. You know, it's kind of interesting. You look around the college basketball landscape, and you have so many dudes going into the transfer portal and then bouncing. You know, I asked this yesterday of Hagan. Hagan didn't really have a good answer. I surprised him with that, and I'll ask Greg this too. Even though we're not talking about the same timetable, like Justin Smith at Arkansas, you know, he committed to Arkansas yesterday after transferring from IU. You know, once Nogel Eastern is eligible to play at Michigan, you know, which one or any of them have any effect production-wise on any of those teams, you think? Where's Jordan? What did Jordan Tucker end up doing? Is he staying? Is he working out for the NBA? He's just not doing anything. Is he hibernating like me? He just bounced, I think, didn't he? I think so. And staying in? We'll talk to Greg about that bottom of the hour. Denari's going to join us, voice of the Pacers, coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. I was talking to JJ about this on the show yesterday. You know, what might be Denari, Quinn, and JJ and Eddie Gill once this season reemerges? You're going to be doing that remotely. You're going to be on site. What'd you say, 35 people per team are allowed? Those are the essential folks. Off the top of your head, I mean, you have 25 at least on the bench area, right? Will everybody be on the bench, per usual? 25 in the bench area. Kevin Pritchard's going to be around there somewhere. I don't know if Donnie's going to make that trip or not. You would think. Do
you bring scouts there? Do you bring analytics people there?
Are they going? Will the coaches just scout? Will the coaches scout?
They might try to. They're going to try to maximize. If you're there, you have to. You're sure you're going to be doing multiple things.
I'm going to tell you what
they're
right,
not used to.
You're going to be missing it, Pacers, if you're not taking my man Ryan Carr. Take Ryan Carr. That gets you about 35 right there. And then with broadcast crews, you're going to have more than just, Chris and Quinn and JJ and Eddie Gill. I'm assuming somebody's going to have to be staked out at Bankers Life Fieldhouse and in the Fox Loft, maybe. Because I made available my services if JJ needs me. I'll sit up in the Fox Loft and waste a little bit of time with them if they need it. And then the timing is going to be interesting, too, because you're going to have to accommodate the West Coast teams. And you're thinking in those windows of time, they're going to be the past 8 o'clock, the past 10 o'clock games, right? Whereas early in the day, you're going to have noon and 4. That will probably be accommodating the Eastern Conference teams, especially the Eastern Conference teams. The Pacers are going to – it's like they do when you start the postseason. And let's say the Pacers and the Raptors are playing. They're going to get that noon game, right? They're going to get that noon Saturday start in the postseason on the first day of the postseason. So what do you think? The first day of the postseason is going to be a noon start for the Pacers and the Heat?
It's
right?
like there's always that NBA TV series. Usually is in the playoffs, and it always seems that the Pacers are in that series unless they're playing like they were playing LeBron.
That's exactly what I see. So it's going to get weird. I mean, we're not even scratching the surface of weird. We're just talking about the optics of weird and what it's going to look like. What's it going to look like without fans? What's it going to sound like? We're just talking about, wait a minute. So the Pacer playoff game is on a Monday at noon? Because they're going to do weekdays, right? I mean, these things will be over the top of.
They're going to be every day.
Yeah. So they're going. That is going to be weird. All right, quick break, and we'll come back. Rakestraw, bottom of the hour. Denari, top of the 4 o'clock hour. Denari's also been in the state of Michigan. Why you vacation in Michigan? You like Michigan for vacation?
I've never vacationed there. I mean, they got water. They've got dunes, if you're into that. They've got national park, state parks. And it's good weather there right now. It's probably in the mid-70s every day.
What's good about that? It's June. That's good about that. Everybody flocks to Michigan. If you're in Michigan, you should be flocking to get the hell out. Alas, that's where the Denari's vacation, and they have a history there, so I do understand that. We'll talk to Chris, 4 o'clock hour. Zak Keefer in the 5 o'clock hour of The Athletic. All right, 239-1070. Email address is jmv@1070thefan.com. We are on Twitter at JMV1070. I have no idea why my daughter has called me like 5 times here, but we'll find out during the break. Come back with you. Other side next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Brian Baldinger.
The priority should be to win the AFC South. I think it's all there for them. Tennessee is the Donnybrook, man. You know what you're going to get. I think that's the team that you got to really look at. Is the Tennessee Titans, what they did last year in the postseason. Those games against those teams, them in Houston, probably are going to determine who wins the AFC South.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Rob Belushi from the Bill Estes Ford family in Brownsburg. Brian, are you doing sit-ups in the office?
Yeah. I'm trying to start a new summer workout routine.
Cool. I heard it takes 21 days to develop a new routine. What day are you on?
1.
Well, day 1 is the most important.
I've been on day 1 for 11 years.
Let Bill Estes Ford establish value, safety, and confidence in your new routine on day 1.
Get into a newer, safer car for a lower payment with great deals on our best 2020 inventory.
Right now, get $3,000 off any new Escape or Fusion or $5,000 off any new F-150. Plus, get 0% financing for 72 months on top of these discounts. And we'll give you $2,000 more for your trade.
Come into Bill Estes Ford today and set a new routine. Because 21 days from now, I may be a sit-up machine, but our inventory won't last.
Right now, get $3,000 off any new 2020 Escape or Fusion or $5,000 off any 2020 F-150. Plus 0% financing for 72 months. Your key is waiting at Bill Estes Ford in Brownsburg.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any. We buy any car. Any make, any model, any age, any price from $50 to $100,000. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's full-service jewelry store, is now open and buying gold to help those needing cash during this economic crisis. So be safe. Shop local, shop smart, shop piercejewelers.com.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Adam Schefter joins us.
Let's just say hypothetically the California teams were not allowed to play home games. I would just say, you know what? We're in a pandemic. That's the way it goes this year. It's not ideal, but you do what you have to do to get through it. I mean, just think about how hard it is on the first responders. Not ideal for them either, but they're doing it. So if there's a team that is unfortunate enough not to be able to play in front of a home crowd, that's the way it goes, Dan.
Dan Dockich, weekdays noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Bullish Brent's hanging and banging with you until the 8 o'clock hour. Coming up, we have artists such as Living Color and the Fine Young Cannibals right now. Here's Roxette, The Look, 89.9 WROL.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. Denari, top of the 4 o'clock hour. Zak Keefer from The Athletics going to join us coming up in the 5. Hey, shout out to the YouTube live group out there. I see the Jonah's back in the Valley of the Sun right there. Well done. We got Sean and Matt and Jason. And if I miss you, my apologies. Vic is in there too. Just have yourself one hell of a conversation. I have a very bright, would you say this is pink? This bright pink right here? Magenta. A B105.7 soft ride. Hell, I don't even know what year this is from. I think I yanked this out of a box. It was about to get thrown away here at the station. I go, hell, I'll wear that. I think it's bright. I'll tell you what it does. It accentuates my all-over tan. Doesn't it? Check us out on YouTube Live. See for yourself. Get back to you in a second. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. Greg Rakestraw joins us now. Hello, Greg.
Hello, sir.
All right, normalcy for you. Do you feel that it's starting to set in just a little bit as far as what you've covered? Because it's been, other than that golf tournament you had a couple of weeks ago, it's been a damn long time since you've done anything, called anything live.
Right, and it looks like the next thing that I may have, could be something in conjunction, with the Brickyard 400, whether that's PA work, whether that's pre- and post-race stuff for the fan. It's not doing play-by-play, but it's stuff I'm used to doing. The Indy 11 season, is slated to resume on July the 11th. We're going to talk more kind of internally what that means for us from a broadcast standpoint later this week. So it hasn't yet, but, we're now talking about this being, 3 or 4 weeks away instead of being 3 or 4 months away. So not there yet, but I'm hoping we can see the finish line here.
He's Greg Rakestraw with us. I'm going to have Denari on top of the hour. I'm going to discuss with him a lot of what to expect when the NBA season resumes and how he's going to be broadcasting, whether it's remote, and I'm assuming it's going to be, but we'll talk about that. You're somebody with the Indy 11. You've done a lot of remote broadcasting, and I want you to tell both sides of it for folks out there that may not completely understand it. And I'm guessing here that you still love the side in which you're actually in the venue broadcasting the game or telling everybody about the game.
Absolutely. I would rather be on site. Now, I will tell you, and you've lived this, you've been there, you're still there to some degree. My kids are now 9 and 5. I love the fact that I see them after the broadcast is over, or I see them the first thing next morning instead of, like in my old IUPUI days, flying back from Cedar City, Utah, or driving back from Macomb, Illinois. I don't miss the travel aspect of it, but in a perfect world, yes, I would rather be at the venue on location, because there are things that you miss not being there to see even what is off camera. So I have done a couple of different versions of remote broadcasts. One at like the high school level, with what we do at ISC. Isn't the case usually in football or basketball, but there are times in baseball or softball that will want to televise a game, but there's just not the press box facilities to put announcers in. And so in those cases, I am usually in the production truck, and I have a monitor that have all of our cameras that I can see on one screen. And the one that is the program feed is highlighted in green. So I know what the viewer is seeing, but then I do have access to other parts of the field. So like, especially in baseball, I can say, okay, I can see the runner is leading off from first, kind of like I would if I were in the press box. Again, the viewer's not seeing that camera, but I can see it happening like I would if I were there as a fan in the stand, so to speak. So that at least allows me to recreate, I know exactly what the weather conditions are like and kind of take a look around the field and stuff like that. When I do an Indy 11 game, I am seeing the program feed. I'm not seeing the other camera angles. I am literally seeing what the viewer is. I'm just seeing it about 10 seconds before they are. Because, let me use the current example for the Indy 11. When we do a road match, whatever that location is, that feed is sent to the broadcast hub for the USL, for the Indy 11's league, and that is in South Florida. That then gets sent back to me. There's a graphics package that's on there. There's Nat sound, but not announcers. And then we layer other graphics on top of that. At Channel 8 is where I am broadcasting from. I am literally up in a sales office on the second floor. Me and Brad Hodder, we've got an audio board in front of us and an engineer behind us kind of modulating our feed. So anyway, the video is going from site to Florida back to Indianapolis. Our audio is added in Indianapolis, and it goes straight to the air from that point. And that is how we do Indy 11 road games. And so in that scenario, what I miss in soccer, I see players stop sometimes, and I have to assume it's because the offside flag has gone up. If I am in the building where my vantage point is, I know that to be the case.
Right.
And so there you get about 90% of what you would get being at the venue, but sometimes it's that 10% that can make the difference.
He's Greg Rakestraw. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Now, are all the 11 matches going to be inside Lucas Oil Stadium?
That is the plan as of now. And so the league announced on Thursday, hey, we are coming back. There is going to be a season, as in, all right, here's the date. Yes, we're going to be playing, but it's still to be determined, are there fans going to be there? And I don't think that's a league-wide decision. I think the league is going to allow that up to teams and the local municipalities. Hey, what are going to be the social distancing rules? How many people are you letting in? Obviously, it's an advantage for the Indy 11. You can be a bit more socially distant at Lucas Oil than you can be at a venue that's normally seating 5,000 to 10,000 people. You can space out and still get 10,000 people to go watch an Indy 11 match at Lucas Oil Stadium. So, yeah, there could be some matches moved to Carroll, only if, because of a new schedule, if a new schedule is put together, there might be some conflict dates with the Colts or anything else that might be taking place there. But the plan is to play most, if not all, remaining Indy 11 home games at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Is there, I don't want to say an argument that's not an argument, but is there an opinion to be had that maybe the players and everybody in mind, utilizing Lucas Oil Stadium is certainly more about the fans being there, right?
Right.
And with the fans not being there, wouldn't everybody feel better, be better just about having these home dates at Carroll Stadium?
Potentially, but now you've also got to wire like a couple of different stadiums. And so let's say a determination was made to say we're not going to have fans for the rest of the season. Now it's a much easier argument to say, okay, let's move everything over to this venue instead of bouncing back and forth. The other thing that I would say is that it is nice, given the weather we have this time of year, to know that come heck or high water at 7:06 you are kicking off, because you have a controlled atmosphere versus dealing with weather, storms, etc., if you're playing at Carroll Stadium. If a determination is made to not have fans for the remainder of the year, then I see what you're saying, and maybe you move to one venue. But again, I think the preference would be to continue to play at Lucas Oil, knowing that is the home for the Indy 11 for at least the next couple of years.
I completely understand. Greg Rakestraw joins us. Have you had a lot of conversations with high school coaches and ADs, especially from a football standpoint of things, on how preparation for their athletes, their players will begin, and what to expect? Because the whole world, it's so much discombobulation right now, and it feels good about getting back. But then you don't want to rush right back into it. That can be detrimental. How are these guys handling that?
I know that Paul Knighting, the incoming commissioner of the IHSA, was on a conference call with a lot of ADs across the state yesterday. I know that the plan is that, again, we've talked about this date before, that people had to be off campus as of, through June 30th, and you can come back July 1st. Now it looks like, July 6th with like a phased reentry as to what you can do. There's 2 or 3 weeks of step one, then you get to practice a couple of weeks of that, then you get to playing games, and thankfully those targets haven't moved. And so with that, the hope is that we are playing sports on time. Again, August 21st is the first set of football games. Around that same time, you start to have cross-country meets, you start to have volleyball, you start to have soccer. Golf is the sport on the girls' side that does start a bit earlier, but obviously you have seen a good number of golf events take place, like the one that I did, because you can be more socially distant in that sport, and obviously outdoors and spacing and things like that. So there are more plans and protocols in place than, say, there were 2 or 3 weeks ago. And much like I talked about my personal schedule returning to some degree of normalcy, we're not there yet, but there are at least target dates in the near future that we're all feeling more confident day by day that we're going to hit those things.
So Greg Rakestraw is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You can catch him, I'm sure. All of a sudden, this stuff's all going to start to fall here, and you're going to be as busy as you've ever been, and that's saying something.
Right. I told people, I said, for example, I'm going to go play golf in Richmond with a buddy of mine on Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm just like, listen, all these things that we've said, hey, if I've got time to do them, let's do it. Those are going to take place in June, because I am keeping my fingers crossed that come July, I am going to be, rather frenetic. I'll be moving around kind of like Animal from the Muppet Show in the month of July, and that will be absolutely wonderful.
You and Tricia did a great job on Thursday. I appreciate you guys. I may send the bat signal out to you again relatively soon if you guys have a minute too. I can't thank you enough for doing that.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. I'm glad you got to catch up with your mom and go to the meat locker and all kind of fun stuff.
Yeah.
All throughout southwestern Indiana, and I would offer the same suggestion to you. Normally in July, we're trying to find ways to, get out of town and do other things. Take some downtime in June, because by July, I think it's about to pick back up around here. Thank goodness.
I got you. Thanks again. You and Tricia did a great job on Thursday. I'll probably call on you here again relatively soon. Thanks, brother.
You got it, buddy. Anytime.
So Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. A shout-out to the Odin Meat Locker. Because the other night, I've got another sirloin ready. I took a couple of sirloins, right? And these things are huge. They're about the size of a damn base. Like in baseball, the base. Huge sirloin. And I made you know how much I talk about the mixture of Heinz 57 and Leon Perrins together in a bag? I let that thing marinate all day. It was beautiful. I mean, it was, are you guys ready? A gorgeous piece of meat. Awesome. I got another one loaded up and ready to go, too. Shout out to the Odin Meat Locker. And to the Gastoff. I had to go to the Gastoff with my mom. It's weird, right? Anybody ever been to a smorgasbord? That's what the Gastoff is, right? But smorgasbord where you sit down, but then they have to get the food for you. That has to curb some of the normal trips to the buffet just by virtue of that alone, doesn't it? But no, it was awesome. Shout out to the Odin Meat Locker. I've turned a lot of you folks onto it. I hear from people all the time making a trip. That place isn't open on Sunday either. Making the trip down. You can make the trip down there, and then while you're down there, too, if you go all the way down and go to the meat locker to get awesome meat, make sure you stop into Dutch Pantry, and then thank me later for that. The Dutch Pantry is right there on 58. Hello. You'll love it, I promise. What's happening here on YouTube Live with this? I don't know. Somebody just saying stuff over and over again here. Yeah. What's that about? That's weird. I mean, I tell you what, some of you folks have time out the wazoo just to be screwing around. This is a meaningful conversation we're having on YouTube Live right now. Do not interrupt it. Thanks to Greg and for Tricia for sitting in on Thursday, too. Outstanding job. And see, Matt and Jonah said they did a great job as well. They did a great job Thursday, but Kyle and the tech guys failed for not moving the camera to a... Yeah. Was it on Greg the entire time? Outstanding. Trish is awesome. We got to thank him for that. Rick wants to know when the JMV Brisket Challenge is. The Smoke-Off with Mike Wells. The Smoke-Off is coming up in July. I'll tell you when and where, how you can be involved. And I'm trying to do some practice work right now on the Big Green Egg. I'm trying. The Smoke-Off is coming up in July. I'll explain with the Big Green Egg and Sullivan Hardware and Garden. Top of the hour, Denari, voice of the Pacers, will join us. And Zak Keefer on his thoughts, the Zoom meeting with the local media with Phillip Rivers. Zach joins us in the 5. Back with you next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Bill Yates.
The Colts are about to enter the third straight year with the same 5 offensive starters. There's like 5 teams in the NFL that have a chance to even make that streak 2 this year. There are enough pieces in place that the Colts will not behind the 8 ball relative to other teams within their division.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Oh, big time shout out to Joe, John, and Dennis of Connecticut. They're also a part of the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. Number 1 is coming up at the end of this month. They're the official hydration, but they know that you have recognized, if you don't already have the best in Connecticut, you probably have a hard or a problem water situation in your home. And you've realized that over the 3.5 months you've been at home more than you ever have. So they're giving you the opportunity to get the best, and that is Connecticut. And for a limited time, call Connecticut. Tell them you want the JMV 20 discount. That is 20% off your purchase of the exact same system that I have. And I can tell you this, I'm on well water, and for Connecticut to give me the best water, that is a great deal of work, and that's how you know you're working with the best. That is Connecticut. 20% off. Just ask for the JMV 20. And you can tweet at me, too, at JMV 1070 for the JMV 20, and I'll send that to my friends at Connecticut. 20% off the Premier Series in-home water system that I have right now with Connecticut. 2 locations, northeast side Castleton, south side US 31, Southport Road, Connecticut Water. Download that app to your smartphone or smart device today. All the information you need. And remember, the JMV 20 discount online, ConnecticutIndy.com right now.
Kids, tell your parents about Forum Credit Union's Sprout of the Month contest, where you can win $100 in a Sprout account. Details at 1075thefan.com.
Have you added up the total amount of credit card debt you owe? Don't be afraid to find out, because it can all go away with a phone call to Golden Oak Lending.
Imagine the feeling of freedom when you owe nothing on credit cards. It can happen. This is James Hawkins at Golden Oak Lending. The equity in your home has risen and rates have fallen. That means you can get money to pay off those credit cards.
Call us for a free mortgage checkup today. Our average cash-out customer saves $904 a month. Plus, you'll make no payments for 2 months.
No time to call? Apply online 24/7 at goldenoaklending.com with our secure Zipline mortgage.
Apply from the comfort and safety of your home or call 317-706-GOLD. That's 706-GOLD.
If we can't close your loan, the appraisal is no charge.
NMLS 114937, regulated by the Indiana Department of Financial Institutions.
No matter who's playing, we're talking. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
You just got your asses whipped by a bunch of damn nerds.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
So that's John Goodman, right, from Revenge of the Nerds? John Goodman better in Revenge of the Nerds or The Big Lebowski? Seen either one, Kyle? Which one do you like better, Revenge of the Nerds or The Big Lebowski?
Never seen Revenge of the Nerds, so I'm going to go with Big Lebowski.
There's another homework assignment for you. I saw Revenge of the Nerds with my mom. There's a whole lot of nudity, and I mean frontal and backle, and a whole lot of smoking of the weed. There was a whole lot going on right there. Anyway, you got to see Revenge of the Nerds. Man, Booger, I've tried to get Booger on this show a number of times. I don't know why we've never done that, or I've never been able to complete that, but Booger's awesome. Booger in the belching contest. Booger in the arm wrestling contest against a sorority girl where he picked his nose right before they grabbed hands and she was grossed out and lost. He put his booger-picking index finger up as if to say he's number one. Booger was awesome. John Dissauer with this. He's our staff meteorologist. The dew point has risen to 73 degrees in Indy. Tropical, muggy levels. I love me some tropical and muggy. Or as he says, muggly. I love tropical and muggly. The highest it's been since September the 29th of a year ago. Did you know only 18 days in 2019 produced a 73-degree plus? We're talking about a dew point, not the temperature, but a dew point a year ago. The first occurrence was May 23rd of last year. Dissauer. On top of it, I love tropical and muggy. Bill Lane Beer shoot. That's classic. This from Fred. JMV, if tight end is Rivers' go-to, who would have been a better fit, keeping Ebron or Burton? I don't know if there's not really a prototypical dude, for example, that Rivers has had to deal with. How much time did Hunter Henry miss when he was playing with Rivers? No, man, Antonio Gates, Hall of Fame guy. And you're not going to replicate that. I don't think Ebron was trustworthy enough to be that guy. Time will tell if Trey Burton can kind of resurrect a career here in doing that. You know, Jack is going to be trustworthy. But he doesn't have that typical guy he's had in the past, yeah.
Henry played 12 games last year, so we missed 4. 2018, he didn't play at all. And in his previous 2 years, he played in 14 games and 15 games. Those are his first 2 years.
So he's been last couple of years, he's had some injury situations, big time, especially 2 years ago. JMV, why is it people that mostly work inside like tropical and muggy? I hate it. I get you. Listen, I don't know if my viewpoint would change, though, because I like being outside in it. I would just be shirtless. And I know you can't go shirtless, but you're probably right. I probably like it more because I can crank down the AC to about 65 in here. But I still like it. And believe me, I've worked outside before. I mean, hell, I worked in a damn tire shop for a couple of years The old Team and Tire Shop, not only did they not have AC, I don't even know if they had a fan. There was no ventilation or nothing. From Greg and Carmel, JMV, how am I supposed to eat 12 pieces of fried chicken and 15 egg rolls if someone is getting my food for me? And see, that's the thing. That's what I noticed at the gas stop. Your portions are considerably dialed down. It's not like I'm going to go over there and like John Belushi from Animal House, down the buffet line or anything. But your portions that they put on your plate are much smaller than portions that you would expect when you're saying, yeah, you know what? I feel like eating at a smorgasbord. Let's all go to the gas stop. Like considerably smaller. So true. So true. It's from John, JMV, Michigan sucks. Good day to you from Lagodi. Shout out to Lagodi. JMV, if the Pacers only take 35 people, who will clap for Vic when he does his dribbling warm-up in his tiny shorts? Oh, no. I don't know who's going to do that. JMV, if you haven't picked up any of the ground bacon at Odin Meatlock, you have to try it. I have tried it too. Fry it up, add it to your eggs, scramble. It's awesome. Also great on homemade pizza. I agree with you about Dutch Pantry. Awesome place. That is Mark Gillespie from Columbus, Indiana. Listen, if you're going to make the trip down there to get the best meat from the Odin Meatlocker, stop at Dutch Pantry. Thank me later. But go early, too, because you don't want to either run into crowds, and when they shut the door, baby, they shut the door. And they shut the door, And I got to get back to Dinky's at some point. I need to take off on a Friday and go to Dinky's. Practicing social, I don't know, are they practicing social distancing at Dinky's? That's always pretty fun. All right, quick break, and we shall come back. I mentioned Zak Keefer coming up at the 5 o'clock hour. Hey, what time is their conference call with Rivers? 4 o'clock? Phillip Rivers, Zoom call, local media coming up here at the top of the hour. Zak Keefer will discuss that conversation and more with us in the 5 o'clock hour. So how that broadcast is going to work, I mean, we're kind of interested on how the basketball, the NBA upon return is going to look. How much we're going to like it. How is the broadcast going to look? The voice, the TV voice of the Pacers, Chris Denari, joins us top of the hour, 93.5, 107.5, and 1070 The Fan.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Former Colt Darius Butler, take me inside an NFL locker room where you have all kinds of different people after a summer like this.
I think this offseason obviously is like no other with the pandemic, and then now you have the protests, all these things that are kind of working together. It's really going to come down to the leadership, the guys that are in the leadership positions, I think.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Sports Center updates on The Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Right now at Big O Tires, save up to $150 off a set of Big O brand tires through June 21st. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
This is a message for all men. After trying the little blue pill, my family doctor said my ED was incurable unless I had surgery. My wife was supportive. She told me it wasn't that important to her, but I knew it was deep down inside. I felt less of a man, less of a husband without that intimacy. I was embarrassed. But all of that changed the day I called the Indianapolis Men's Clinic and made an appointment. My wife went with me, and let me say, my doctor was wrong. We have regained our intimacy. It's truly amazing what they've done for us. Indianapolis Men's Clinic resolved my ED and my low testosterone all in one place. Thanks, guys. No matter your age, your condition, or if you suffer from Peyronie's disease, we can help. $99 for a physician evaluation, test dose, and testosterone checkup. Call now 317-999-9000. That's 999-9000. Or at IndyMen'sClinic.com.
Get up and go now so you can go tonight.
John here for Love Heating and Air Conditioning. John and Chris Love. I mean, really, the company is giving great service. I mean, it goes back 100 years of greatness. I think it goes all the way back to in the day when your air conditioning unit was an ice block and a fan. That's how far back that it goes. And they've always been practicing on a daily basis greatness at 317-353-2141. I wouldn't trust anybody else with my heating or cooling units. That's why I call on John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air Conditioning, and you should too. And do not be hesitant. I know that we've gone through a lot here, and I know that you're just kind of wondering, all right, if something goes wrong, what should I do? Don't be hesitant to bring the fantastic technicians from Love Heating and Air Conditioning to your place. Just call them at 317-353-2141 and know that they have your health, your safety, your peace of mind as top of their mind, because they're practicing all CDC recommended guidelines to service you even better. Think about that, too, and the efficiency of your cooling unit. You know, we just had John Dissauer talk about how muggly it is, how humid, how tropical. Is your AC unit getting the job done? Because if it's not, it's going to leave you hot and humid in your home. You don't want that, and it's going to cost you money as well, and it won't be doing the job, so you don't want that. Call on the experts. Love Heating and Air Conditioning, 317-353-2141. Online, love-hvac.com today.
There's a lot of unknown in the world, but one thing is always certain: cash is king. And there's never been a better time in history for a cash out refinance. TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis. Soccer Saturday featuring Indy 11. If this is your football, this is your show. Saturday at 9 on The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
I am in the parking lot right now, hammering a bacon, egg, and cheese, hold the cheese, in preparation to go deep with 4 hits and put on a laser show to the likes of which you have never witnessed in your entire life.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. This date in 1980, I consider the late, great Richard Pryor the best comedian of all time. This date in 1980, after freebasing without interruption for several days consecutively, Richard Pryor poured a bottle of cognac, or as they say where I'm from, cognac, over his body and set himself on fire. Pryor suffered third-degree burns over half of his upper body. Then 2 years later, returned and did a live stand-up motion picture live on Sunset Strip. And if you remember, the first one wasn't to his liking, so he kind of stopped in the middle, came back on a second night, and delivered arguably the best stand-up in the history of stand-up. 1980, June 9th, 1980. Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline, friend of the show, voice of the Pacers, and a guy that loved to take vacations in the state of Michigan, oddly enough. Chris Denari joins us. Would you vacation at Camp Crystal Lake or whatever that is up there?
Yeah, Crystal Lake.
That's like Friday the 13th stuff, although that was in Illinois, I think. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it's been enjoyable. Been able to play some golf, those types of things. Keep your mind clear and, think about, all that's been going on in the country, and also looking ahead to what's on tap coming up in a month and a half for the Pacers, and resuming the season, and excited about that. And hopefully we'll find out more sometime this week or early next week, just what that schedule will look like and how our telecast will be formatted.
Have you ever done a remote play-by-play broadcast?
Yes. This year I did. We did the 2 games, Quinn and I, from India. We were in St. Louis.
I forgot about that. You're exactly right.
And I've done, back when I was doing the WNBA with the Fever, I think I probably have done 3 or 4 other games. I did games from, that were at Madison Square Garden or the old Verizon Center in Washington, D.C. It's got a different name now. But I think I did 3 or 4 Fever games where I was sitting in the studio at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, and we were getting a feed and then broadcasting in the studio. So I've done it before. It's we're seeing more and more of it. I just read today an article on what's happening on the PGA Tour this week at the Colonial. Jim Nance will be by himself in the 18th tower. They'll have Mark Immelman and Dottie Pepper on the grounds of the golf course. Those are the only 3 broadcasters on site. Everybody else will be remote. Nick Faldo will be in Orlando. The people that usually are in the 15, 16, 17 hole towers will also be remote. So we're seeing more of that, John, especially now because of COVID-19. I briefly heard you talk to JJ yesterday, and I think, where we are now, clearly I'd like to be on site. I think you can perform better as a play-by-play announcer just because of all the things that you're able to see and hear. But I think at this point, we just are hopeful to do the games and to bring them back to the Pacers fans that are very interested in watching.
Yeah. Is that your expectation that do you guys know yet if you're going to be remote broadcasting? I'm assuming so. 35 from each team, right? And that doesn't leave a lot of space.
Yeah, I mean, that's my assumption. Again, I know there are people at a higher level than me that, are going to make that decision, and I'm sure those conversations are going on right now. There was really no need for speculation, and there's no need for us to speculate now how we'll do the games.
Right.
But until last week, we didn't know if the NBA was coming back. We thought it was, and we get confirmation last Thursday by the Board of Governors and then passed on Friday by the Players Association that we know when the season will start, when teams will report to camp. I'm still waiting to see. I've seen some stories that there could be 2 to 3 preseason games or exhibition games prior to those 8 regular season games. And I guess my thought will be that if they are more than just scrimmages, I wouldn't be surprised if we would televise those as well, because that would be another opportunity for fans to watch NBA basketball before the 8 games that count in the regular season. So I know there are a lot of discussions going on. We still have, a few weeks. I don't think teams will report to Orlando until probably mid-July, maybe the 10th through the 15th. So we still have some time, but I know there would be a lot of preparation going on because I read today that whoever is directing the CBS telecast, I think it was Sean McMahon or Sean McMichael, he said this was going to be the most difficult telecast that he has ever put on, and this is a guy that does Final Fours and Super Bowls. So it tells you, as you put these things together, it takes a lot of planning, and I'm sure that's going on right now.
Well, I was thinking about that. I was talking to JJ about it yesterday, and Jamie Burns is the guy that's the direction. He gives us all the shots, and he's dictating visually what is going on. Do you guys have any idea? Are they going to have the normal allotment of cameras, angles, things like that? Have they had those conversations yet?
No, I think that'll be the question. I mean, we see this happen in World Cup. We see it happen in the Olympics, that for all of the broadcasters that are on site, there are also a number of broadcasters that stay back in the States. And so my guess is if it is some type of remote situation, there will be what we call a world feed, which is a feed that would go nationally to ESPN if they were doing the game, to the Pacers. Let's say the Pacers are playing the Spurs. Both would have access to that world feed, the 5 or 6 cameras that are providing the feed. And then usually in a situation like that, again, I'm not a truck guy, so I'm talking out of place here a little bit, but Jamie might have access to a couple of other cameras that he could call on that make it a Pacers telecast, and then the person in San Antonio would have access to those as well.
Yeah.
So it's quite possible. I mean, John, you're seeing more and more games that are on Fox and FS1 and ESPN2 at the college level that are being done remotely with broadcasters in studios. So it's not something that people are foreign to. There are plenty of people with great expertise in pulling these off. So in some form, our hope would be is that if you tune in, you would not know that either the broadcasters are there or not there. I'm assuming because of what's happened with COVID-19 that we would let you know that we're not there. But that's how you hope to do it, is that people don't know if you're there or not.
It's Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers on the Indy Moore Automotive Group hotline, and obviously NASCAR's been back for a while now. IndyCar just came back on Saturday night. You know, the golf is going to officially be back on CBS this weekend. How much have you taken away from the way those broadcasters have handled those broadcasts, and especially that of NASCAR, which kind of led the way in all of this?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I'm a sports fan. I love watching NASCAR, IndyCar, golf. I mean, I'm a sports fan. So I like to watch the competition and the event. But for me, I also watch it maybe a little differently because I watch to see how the announcers are handling things. How do they sound? One of the things that I felt we had to do when we were in India, when the team was in India and we were in St. Louis, is you're sort of in a sterile environment. Even though you have crowd noise in your ears, you're in a studio, and so you feel like you have to push the enthusiasm, you have to push the energy more so than you would if you're in a building and you're feeling that energy. The difference here will be is there won't be energy or enthusiasm other than the players coming out of Orlando because there will be no crowd. I mean, when we were doing the games from St. Louis that were in India, we had crowd noise. We had crowd noise in our headsets, so we could feel that energy. Even though we weren't experiencing it, we could feel it. So that's the one thing I think. But just reading, every broadcaster is saying this is different territory than they've ever been in. But like in any job, I mean, people adapt. You have to adapt every day, no matter what you are doing. If you're an accountant, a nurse, whatever. And so we have to adapt as well. And honestly, John, the fans, I'm going to say, don't care. They just want the games, and they want you to broadcast them. So we have to do that to the best of our ability.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see because I completely agree with you. And for me, I love basketball. I have greatly missed basketball, whether it's my old ass playing it, and I finally got back to playing it on Sunday, or, obviously watching it, and especially that of the NBA. But I do kind of wonder, you're going to be excited initially when basketball is back, but I wonder if the no crowd, neutral floor thing is going to have a shelf life with some. I do kind of wonder that, Chris.
It's going to look different. There's no question about that because you will not tune in and see a fan base or a crowd. And so that is the question. I mean, John, this really won't even be like NBA Summer League because when we watch NBA Summer League, that's well attended. There are a number of people there. This, to some extent, will be like watching practice, if you will. Right. I have the opportunity on a regular basis at the St. Vincent Center to walk in during the course of the year and watch them practice and watch them scrimmage. And in effect, that will be what it's like, other than the fact that you'll have cameras there, you'll have people on the scores bench, a stat crew, those types of things. So it'll be a little bit different, but I think we're all anxious to see. I mean, the beauty about IndyCar and NASCAR with the way that they can cover that race, you're following the cars. So a lot of the times you don't even, when there is a big crowd there at times, you don't see the crowd. So this is a little bit different. I would say, basketball, baseball, football would be a little bit different than those motorsports. So we'll just have to wait and see how it all works out.
He's Chris Denari. He's voice of the Pacers. He's on the Indy Moore Automotive Group hotline. To me, though, and we've talked about this before, just with the aspect of the possibility of return, when there are some out there saying, hey, this is not going to matter because it's not been a full season. They say the same thing about MLB. I contend that it's going to be even greater and be lodged in our memory longer, if not forever, because of all that we have gone through, and then how these sports have come back, and then who's ultimately the champion, to me will stick out more than, who won the NBA Finals 2 years ago.
I agree. I mean, I know some people, and look back at 1999 when they played a 50-game schedule due to the lockout. And I think Shaquille O'Neal is one of those. He's never given credit to the San Antonio Spurs for winning that title. My issue is everybody is equal as far as this season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and so I do think we'll circle 2020 on the calendar and remember this year. I just don't live by that. Whoever wins the title. All 30 teams in the NBA had a chance to win a title, and whoever is fortunate enough to win it in 2020, in my eyes, they are a legitimate champion.
Yeah, me too. I wonder, those that have been steadfast against in this case, the NBA's return, are they still going to watch, you think? Because, Barkley has been that way. Shaq has been that way. You think that, they're still going to be, I'm assuming, doing stuff for TNT, right?
I think so.
Yeah, Schefter was that way regarding the draft and the schedule release, and I'm assuming he still does his job.
Yeah, and I think we go back to the NFL draft and how they pulled that off. I give great kudos to the NFL for that, and I think they humanized a league with all of the families that were in living rooms and basements and sons and daughters and wives, and I thought it was awesome. I really did, and it showed that you can overcome those challenges and put on a good show. And I'm very confident that the powers that be, that at our level, at the RSN level, as you mentioned, Jamie Burns, Larry Mago and his staff in St. Louis with Fox Sports Indiana, TNT, ESPN. Everybody's going to work hard to put a product together that people are going to want to consume, and I think they'll want to do that.
Yeah, I agree. We don't have any idea what this squad is going to look like. You just don't, and I don't know if we've talked about this in depth. I know I brought this up to JJ, and I've talked about it on this show, but you kind of have the tale of two seasons, at least thoughts in my mind, going into the NBA's return coming up in July. One is the struggle at the beginning, and then finally finding that identity and arguably playing its best basketball the 2 weeks leading up to the stoppage of play, but still playing the best basketball with, Vic still trying to work his way back in and without Brogdon. You got any expectations about what type of team you're going to see upon its return?
Well, John, I think that's the great thing about what this team had to fight through this year. If you think about it, you're right. The first 3 games of the year were not good. They finally won in Brooklyn. That sort of turned the tide. And then they had that period when Vic came back. They win on January 29th when he hits the 3 to force overtime, and then they lose 6 in a row. And everybody was down, and where is this team? And then they proceed to win 8 of 11, including 4 of 5 on that. What I thought was a very impressive performance on the road trip, with Victor starting to play better and doing it with McDermott was out with a toe injury, Brogdon was out. So I think this team has experienced the highs and lows that you experience in a season. I think I'd be more concerned if it was a team that had experienced all lows or a team that had experienced all highs. I think that they've experienced both ends of the spectrum. So I think that puts them in a nice position that, look, if they start out and lose the first couple or 3 games in this 8-game regular season start, I don't think it really worries them because they understand what they've been through. So I just think the fact that they've had to endure many different kinds of results with many different kinds of rotations due to the injuries, I really think that sets them up all right for this 8-game run into the playoffs.
I'm curious about this, too. Let's just say, for example, the way that it is, Miami is a postseason matchup. Miami has been fantastic. The surprise team of the NBA season, what was going per usual. Fantastic at home, not very good at all on the road. The Pacers have been much better than the Heat on the road. Does that mean anything in an Orlando neutral environment?
Yeah, John, I really don't know. I think until we see teams play those 8 games, I don't think we really know anything about anybody because what you did that ended on March the 11th, you're talking 4 months later you're starting. So it's almost like it's a clean slate for teams. You know what teams are and what teams have done, but I don't think you really have a feel for a team and what they'll do right off the bat. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch this. I guess the other thing is John, I think even though a team will be designated as a home team and a team as an away team, I'm guessing that every one of these games is going to have an N next to it, neutral. I mean, this is like college basketball going to the Bahamas, going to Maui. I mean, to me, nobody has an advantage other than the fact that they may be listed as the home team on the scoreboard, right?
Yeah, that's it. How much do you remember about the game that you last broadcast for the Pacers?
Well, I remember a lot. Victor was as good as he's been all year. The Pacers got, down significantly against Boston and then rallied to take the lead. And Victor, by his own admission, admitted he should not have taken that shot in transition. If he makes it, it's great, but he missed it, and it sort of opened the door for the Celtics. But I think it was representative of this Pacers team this year, that even when they got down early, they felt like they could come back, and they did so, but lost to a good Boston team. That was Victor, 26, 27 points, played really, really well. I mean, here are the things you forget. I did this thing for Pacers.com where we go inside the game, and it was a play that was started by T.J. McConnell going into the lane, finding Sabonis, and then McDermott back cutting, as we've seen him do so much to the rim. John, Domantas Sabonis this year, 18.5 points, 12.5 rebounds, 5 assists.
Yeah, no, he had 8 in that game too, and one of the dimes you're talking about. So
those are unbelievable numbers, and that's the part that excites me with this group, because I really think this can be a group that can push forward over the next couple of years. And in this day and age in the NBA, if you can keep a group together for 2 to 3 years, that's a long time. I'm really excited about what this group can do and how young they are, and hopeful that as we look to next year, and again, we still have a lot of time left this year now, that they can keep some of those pieces together that maybe are only on 1-year contracts but have played so well. So I'm just glad we're talking about the return, because for so long you and I were, when I'd be on, we didn't know really, we could speculate that it was coming back, but now we know it's coming back. Just waiting to see what that schedule will be. It's sort of been out there that you would play the next 8 opponents that are left on your schedule. Now, the Pacers were supposed to play Philadelphia and then Golden State. Well, Golden State's not one of the 22 teams, so you wipe them away. So it'll be interesting to see. I haven't done the math, but does the math work that the next 8 opponents work out for every team? I'm sure it doesn't. So anxious to see what that schedule
it does. And I think it's like, if memory serves, I think the Pacers' winning percentage of their regular season games remaining is somewhere around 51 to 53.
Yeah, it's pretty high, John.
Yeah.
It's Philadelphia.
Yeah.
It's Philadelphia, Miami, Houston, the Clippers, and the Lakers. Those are 5 of the teams.
Yeah. And I think Philly, for example, is like over 60% winning percentage of who they play. So, exactly. And, I mean, how far – I haven't looked at the standings. How far locked in number 5 are the Pacers right now?
No, I mean, Philadelphia's right there. I mean, they're just behind. I mean, the Pacers don't have a big advantage on Philadelphia. So the Pacers are going to be no worse than 6th.
Yeah.
But at 5 right now, it's Miami. You've got Toronto, Boston in the 2-3. It's
to me, sitting here right now, you'd much rather have Miami. I think we can all agree with that, correct?
I think so. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from the Heat. I think Spoelstra's a heck of a coach, and they've gotten a lot out of their 3-point shooting, and they added Iguodala late in the year, so they're a little bit different team. The Pacers have not seen this Heat team that they saw earlier in the year.
No doubt about that. It's Chris Denari with us. Hey, do you think T.J. Warren and Jimmy Butler's animosity has survived this length of time?
That's a great question. I mean, that looked like it was going to be a mano, and maybe it will be down in Orlando, but we're going to have to wait 4 months to see it. Now, we will see it in the regular season because the Pacers do have them. I think they're one of the teams. Yeah, they're one of the teams on this regular season schedule as well. If you look at that's 6 teams, John, that are playoff teams that remain out of the 8 games that the Pacers play.
You got to, and that's going to be hard. It's going to be that's something we haven't talked about yet, but that is going to be difficult. I don't think there's any question about it, Chris.
Well, I think the good thing is by the time I'm on with you next Tuesday, I'm hopeful that, one, we know what our television structure looks like,
right,
and 2, we know what the schedule looks like, because then we'll be about a month away from them being in Orlando, because I think I think they have to be in Orlando a couple of weeks prior to that first game because of quarantine and those types of situations. But they've also talked about the possibility of playing 3 preseason games or 3 exhibition games. So I have to believe that by the end of this week, by early next week, we'll know a lot more than we do today. And clearly today we know a lot more than we did last week.
No doubt. Chris Denari, voice of the Pacers, Fox Sports Indiana, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. And hopefully we get a lot more to figure out and talk about coming up next Tuesday, Chris. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, John.
So Chris Denari, Andy Moore, Automotive Group Hotline. I don't know if you guys saw this earlier. NASCAR has confirmed it will allow select fans at Homestead. I think at Homestead, when is that? That's this weekend, right? Homestead? Those are guests of the military, about 1,000 at Homestead. At this weekend? Homestead is Homestead, Miami's this weekend. So 1,000 guests of the military will be invited in. And then Talladega's coming up on, I think, June the 21st. Talladega, there will be 5,000 fans allowed at Talladega. According to NASCAR. And that's what they're saying. So we shall see how that goes next couple of weeks right there with NASCAR. Yo. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought you were waving at Todd. I thought you were saying you had something to say. Waving at Todd. All right, a quick break and we'll come back. 239-1070. I got time if you guys want to jump on here. Zak Keefer, Athletic, top of the hour. Philip Rivers meeting, at least top of the hour. He met with the local media via Zoom. We'll talk to Zach about that. And I'm going to bring up the tight end position, which we haven't talked at great length. I don't think anybody has. But as always, we're trying to lead it. So talk about the tight end position, which has been over the course, and I'm talking about the productive course of the Philip Rivers quarterbacking NFL career, has been as really good as you could ask. Yet we haven't talked about it at great length other than, knowing that Jack's back, knowing that they're bringing in Trey Burton, and then Frank Reich referencing Mo Alley Cox having more of an opportunity this year. Is that position is solidified as you would like? Talk to Zak Keefer about that and more coming up top of the hour. 239-1070, email address jmv@1070thefan.com, on Twitter at jmv1070, and YouTube Live if you guys want to join in. Everybody is in having a casual conversation right now. You can jump in there, YouTube Live. Otherwise, 239-1070, your calls and a lot more. Other side next.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Paris Campbell joins us.
I've overcome things throughout my life, but I could never pinpoint something that was just so drastic in my life. For me to go through my playing career, never dealing with serious injuries, never having surgery, it pulled me away from the game. It put me in a dark place mentally. It put me in a dark place emotionally. It was just something that I had to look myself in the mirror and I had to make the choice. Was I going to take the situation head on or was I going to run?
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's JMV and the absolute best. Joe Childers and my friends at CarX, and they've been doing it for 40 years, and they continue it right now. CDC recommended guidelines to make sure that you're healthy and you're safe, plus free vehicle inspections, AC inspection, $19.99, lifetime brakes, $89.99 per axle, all the great deals, plus the CDC recommended precautions to help keep you safe. We love CarX. You will too. Locations throughout central Indiana. Online, CarX.com. Don't worry. Call the CarX man.
There's a lot of unknown in the world, but one thing is always certain. Cash is king, and there's never been a better time in history for a cash-out refinance. Imagine dropping your mortgage payment a couple $100s a month, skipping 2 full months of mortgage payments, paying off all your high-interest rate credit card debt, and filling up your savings account with cash. Get pre-approved for your cash-out refinance today. TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
The Home Loan Expert LLC, NMLS number 1326241.
Sports Center updates on the Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Right now at Big O Tires, save up to $150 off a set of Big O brand tires through June 21st. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Bill Yates.
The Colts are about to enter the third straight year with the same 5 offensive starters. There's like 5 teams in the NFL that have a chance to even make that streak 2 this year. There are enough pieces in place that the Colts will not behind the 8 ball relative to other teams within their division.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kyle's over there. I'm John. I want to thank you for joining us. Let's get some people on board here. 239-1070. Congratulations to Joe Burgess, listener to this show and listener to The Takeover down the hall. Joe won a brand new Big Green Egg, courtesy of Mark Scion and Big Green Egg. And Pat Sullivan of Sullivan Hardware and Garden, he won that on Saturday night. And our giveaway with the hashtag JMV Takeover. And Pat and I need to talk, but I think Pat and I got something else in mind because I'm going to be doing that for another month. So another month, and Pat and I will get on the same page, maybe get something else going because you guys have been great. I mean, spectacular in listening. And not just listening, but participation, too. So we'll fire that up. And by the way, too, Joe, if I don't know if I haven't called Joe yet. I got to get a hold of Joe. But Mark is going to bring the Big Green Egg to your place and then assemble it for you in the backyard. You're ready to rock. That's awesome. I saw this a little bit earlier, too. But by the way, another hashtag JMV Takeover Saturday night here. I've got some. It's funny. You go, oh, man, it's like the same. My stuff is not the same stuff. I will jog the memory. I will put you in a place in the past that you love. I promise. I promise to do it. I think I saw this a little bit earlier on ESPN. And when I mentioned places that I want to go, I forgot to mention this place. I think the places where I've wanted to go, Monaco. What did I say, Sardinia or something? I don't know, whatever the hell island it is off of Italy and the Mediterranean. All of it mostly is based around the Mediterranean. Monaco, I'll just say Sardinia for the sake of saying it. Santorini has been one. And Abu Dhabi is where they're having this, right? United Arab Emirates. They're going to have something called the Fight Island. And it's real. Fight Island is real and located in the Middle East. Holy crap. I'm not the biggest UFC dude in the world here, but that looks pretty damn awesome right there. That's going to be UFC 251 coming up for you. But that is going to be hellaciously awesome. That looks great. The ring alone looks outstanding. So shout out to Fight Island. Hey, JMV, this is from J Law. Did you see this? Today is the 69th birthday of the Cobra Dave Parker. That was a badass dude right there. When he was playing right field for the Pirates, and you remember he played for Cincinnati in the mid-'80s. I think closed out his career, with the A's, doing a lot of DHing. But, man, he was a bad dude. Was it the 79 All-Star game where he absolutely threw that frozen rope from right field and nailed Brian Downing at the plate? It was the Cobra to Gary Carter. Downing was trying to score and was snuffed out, was stoned at the plate. I mean, he was an absolute right field frozen rope in an all-star game from Dave Parker. I think it was 79. Dave Parker is 69 years of age today. Covey in Monroe County says, can I get your thoughts on Bill and Ted 3 Face the Music trailer? I said this before, too. Man, I'm kind of weird about stuff, I guess. I never got into Bill and Ted. And, normally this was created in the 80s, and it would be right up my alley, but I've just never gotten into Bill and Ted. And I saw where our friend Sarah said, yeah, you are kind of weird about stuff. You never got into South Park either. I never watched an episode of South Park. Not one. I just didn't really. I watched all the Beavis and Buttheads, not one episode of South Park. It's just, I don't know. It's weird. Personal preference, I guess, is what you want to call it. But, yeah, never got into Bill and Ted. Everything else in the 80s probably so, but Bill and Ted was never high on the list. I like the characters. I like Keanu Reeves, but, yeah, Bill and Ted, not so much. Was not really on board with it. Hey, JMV, I heard you talking about the tight end position. I completely agree with you. Not a lot has been said regarding the Colts at tight end, especially when their quarterback, that's 38 years of age, is going to need some production, or at least in the past has needed that production. What do you think? I put them together. I think you can get enough, but, yeah, I mean, that's something we haven't talked at great length about. Jack Doyle is just going to be steady, but, Rivers in the past has played with some high-level tight end. I mean, Antonio Gates, without saying. And there's no way you're going to be able to replicate that in his prime. I don't think anybody's looking for Antonio Gates' production in his prime, but it is, to me, it's a point of emphasis. We really haven't talked about it at great length so far, is the tight end. And you go back a month ago when Frank Reich was talking in a Zoom get-together and mentioned Mo Alley Cox and expected more of a role, an active role from Mo Alley Cox. I think a lot of us thought, well, he's going to be blocking a lot, but, yeah, you're going to have to find some production from all three of these guys, assuming here. And especially with a guy like Trey Burton that's battled injury and wasn't what they expected him to be in Chicago. I mean, everybody just thinks that Trey Burton is going to have some life kind of, reinstalled the level of play by virtue of a connection with Frank Reich and Philly. I don't know. That is certainly their expectation, but you're right. I mean, we talked about a variety of other things at length. One of those certainly not been that of the tight end position. JMV literally man. The Cobra, baby. Yeah, you're talking about those Pirates teams of the 70s. And the Dale Berra. Probably so. JMV, I think Knicks will probably get some tight endish plays too. Well, I don't know. Because when you think about it, there is a great deal of unproven, of season-wide unproven nature offensively for this team. But you look at it on paper, and there looks like that there are a hell of a lot of options. And they're not. So that's why the first thing this really is across the board. It's like when they talked about Jacoby 5 or 7 plays, it's tough for me to envision that. And it also is tough for me to envision more of an opportunity or more opportunities for Mo Alley Cox, because you know me, I'm like Nyheim Hines. I think Nyheim Hines is going to be the guy that's really going to step out of the offensive shadows this year. But there are a lot of guys that are going to be called into question about, just how much production you can get, and if they are producing, how much you can stand to go away from them. How much of a role is Michael Pittman going to play as a rookie? How much of a role will Jonathan Taylor play as a rookie? Boy, Kyle, we brought this up yesterday, too, off the air. So Dalvin Cook is going to hold out. He wants a reasonable new deal, and he put in quotations reasonable. And you're right. I mean, that's why you bring in Jonathan Taylor, have Jonathan Taylor ready. You know, and if somebody has a big year and wants, a lot of money at that position, you can make that decision. Dalvin Cook was really good a year ago. There's no question about that. But, man, that's the last thing and one of the last things you want to have to deal with. JMV, Phillip Rivers will win the Colts 6 games this year. You are 6-10 for a season. You can't sign back after that, right? What? So the Colts are going 6-10. So Rivers, all right, I think I know what you're asking me here, Tim. If Phillip Rivers and the Colts only win 6 games, we are to sit here and assume that things obviously didn't go well for the team. Expectations were not nearly met. In fact, they backpedal. Therefore, you look at the quarterback position. There's no way the quarterback position performs at the level in which you envisioned if you're 6-10. That is a tremendous problem. Tremendous. I mean, hell, at the very least, if you're going to be bad, you'd rather be really bad, too. They're just not bad enough to be really bad. And then you're going to be in flux at the quarterback position for, again, the foreseeable future. That is where a lot of this lies right here. It's from James. Might as well be called Bill and John Wick. Excellent adventure. He talks just like John Wick. You know what? I've not seen a moment of anything John Wick. I'm a dork. I haven't seen John. What's Tom Cruise play? Jack Reacher? I haven't seen Jack Reacher or John Wick. What am I missing? Am I missing anything? Never seen either. You haven't seen them either? No. We're dorks. Nothing John Wick and nothing Jack Reacher. I mean, not a moment. Not even a moment when these things are on. And I get all these channels. I will say this. I saw on IFC. IFC is having on the Wolf of Wall Street coming up here, uncut. So I'm going to get to see all the cussing and nudity that I want to see, finally, coming up. Now, the thing about IFC, and I guess you got to do it, right? They have commercials. This is kind of weird. But I'm going to see all the cussing, all the drug doing, and all the nudity that you would expect to see in The Wolf of Wall Street that I hadn't seen since it was on FX, and it was kind of cut out, sort of cut in. Yeah, it wasn't the same. So I get to see it finally. I think it's coming up this week. The Wolf of Wall Street. Uncut. IFC. With commercials. Thank you very much. Hey, JMV, Coach Calipari has been hosting a weekly conversation about leadership on his Facebook page during the pandemic. Vic was on it yesterday and very impressive. That is Joe, Circle City Wealth Management. Joe, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited about it coming back. And to me, the excitement far outweighs what I think and how odd and awkward it's going to look without fans, sound without fans. You know, even what you can try to manufacture, it's going to be weird, but I'm ready to see some hoopage. I'm going to be ready to see some hoopage. Hey, JMV, don't worry. No one else saw Jack Reacher either. You are missing out on John Wick, sickest action movie series ever. Huh. John, yeah, I've not seen one. How many films are they offer with John? 3? I haven't seen one of them. 3? Lord, what the hell am I missing out on? John Wick. Not one. Hey, JMV, I'm from Portage, like your former producer. Do you have any interest in the Sosa McGuire doc as a huge Cubs fan. Cubs were must-watch nightly as a kid. I will say this. I have more interest. That's coming up on Sunday, I think. I have more interest in that than I ever thought about having with Lance Armstrong. But if you can't compare them all to the 10-part Jordan documentary, because there's never going to be a comparison to that. I mean, especially time and place when it mattered. But yeah, I will watch that. If you remember, that's basically when baseball buried itself in '94 and the season was canceled before they hit the postseason. That was the means in which baseball came back in a variety of ways. And, you know, obviously roiding up in those ways too. Not as interested as the Jordan doc, probably not as interested in some of the other documentaries. Like I had interest in the Miami Hurricanes when the first episode. You know, a couple of the other ones as well. You know, Miracle on Ice. So that'd be right there with him. But I didn't watch a second of the Lance Armstrong documentary. Yeah, and let's face it, too. I mean, everybody seemingly would probably put themselves indoors, but it was a pretty reasonable time for the most part in April because there was crap weather, not across the country, but certainly here where we sat inside and watched it. And there was some local connection going on, too, especially as we got later in the documentary. All right, quick break, and we'll come back. We'll get to your calls. We'll do some emails, some tweets, and check you out on YouTube Live if you want right there. JMV, if you've seen one John Wick, you've seen them all. I've seen one, so I haven't seen any of them. Jason Pullen says Wolf of Wall Street is on FX tonight at 7. I've just got to see, what's her name?
Margot Robbie.
Ooh, Margot Robbie. I do. It's weird, man. I do watch Once Upon a Time in Hollywood over and over, except I skip parts. And I've said this before, I love Tarantino, but damn is there so much dialogue. There's just so much.
7 o'clock for uncensored Wolf of Wall Street. It's kind of early. That's like, you start that movie at 10 o'clock.
Man, they don't show anything. All I say is...
But if it's the uncensored version...
it's not that bad. No, not the one I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. It's different one?
This is on FX. This is going to have, nudity is going to be blocked out. And yeah. So, yeah. Toby says, Predator, Cobra, 48 hours, another 48 hours, Lethal Weapon, even some Police Academy. Listen, I'll take Predator. I love the original 48 Hours. I love the first Lethal Weapon. What else? Yeah. Throw in, what the hell can I think of it? The other Schwarzenegger one right now. Help me out. Commando. Woo! Commando. Got to save my daughter. Alyssa Milano's my daughter. I was going to kill Sully last. I lied. I'm going to drop him off this cliff. Yes. Commando, everybody. Yes. Quick one. We'll come back. Zak Keefer, top of the hour. What Phillip Rivers had to say to the local media and what he thinks about a position that has been incredibly important in the success of Rivers in the past. What he thinks about that position here in 2020 with the Colts. Zach joins us top of the hour. Back with you next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Brian Baldinger.
The priorities should be to win the AFC South. I think it's all there for them. Tennessee is the Donnybrook, man. You know what you're going to get. I think that's the team that you got to really look at. Is the Tennessee Titans, what they did last year in the postseason. Those games against those teams, them in Houston, probably are going to determine who wins the AFC South.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it is your good friend John with some incredibly sound advice that I'm going to go ahead and take that advice too. And the advice I take is courtesy of Diamonds Direct. We are talking about, you got it, 5 years, 0 interest. And the month of June is incredibly important to me because it is my anniversary month. And this month is going to be 20. Yes, almost 20 years ago, I found myself in Vegas getting married to Christy at the Venetian. And I don't know what 20 means as far as gift-giving ideas is concerned. But listen, 20 means I've got to do something and do something right. That's where Diamonds Direct comes in, because they always have the home run swing for you when it comes to a gift-giving idea. 5 years, 0 interest for a limited time, too. Rings, pendants, GIA certified diamonds, and so much more. It's one place for that home run swing. If you need it like I need it, make it Diamonds Direct. This Diamonds Direct online for store hours. And remember, 5 years, 0 interest going on right now for a limited time. Take advantage. It's Diamonds Direct, Keystone at the Crossing.
Kids, tell your parents about Forum Credit Union's Sprout of the Month contest, where you can win $100 in a Sprout account. Details at 1075thefan.com.
There's never been a better time in history for a cash-out refinance. Get pre-approved for your cash-out refinance today. TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Hey, McMillan joins us.
A lot of this is about us in America working together. And I think in sports, this is something that we have shown and continue to show, that all races can work together. When our guys are out there on the floor, we got a diverse group that work for the Pacers, and they display that ability to work together.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Don't read your email, because I'm really butthurt when you read your email.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
No, Kyle's over there. John, thank you. Paul Francis says, JMV, did some dumbass just tweet you? You're going to have to be a little bit more specific. I'm just joking. Did some dumbass just tweet you and complain that Keanu Reeves sounds like Keanu Reeves? And you read it on the air, I guess. Why, is that wrong? I think he says Keanu Reeves. How should I say this? I remember the old SNL gag with Andy Samberg. Andy Samberg, right? Andy Samberg had the gag regarding Mark Wahlberg, the actor Mark Wahlberg. When he plays a role, he's the same in every role, sounds the same in every role. That's, I think, Paul, what that comment was alluding to. That Keanu Reeves sounds pretty much the same in every role. Point Break, the John Wick. I don't know if that's the case. Maybe somebody believes that to be, but that's how I took it. You know, Mark Wahlberg could be, with the Planet of the Apes or Dirk Diggler and Boogie Nights, and he kind of sounds the same, right? So that's what that was in reference to. Jeff Hansen says, hey, JMV, Roadhouse has all the action I need. True dat. True dat. Always. From Stephen Gray, Reeves trained at Terran Tactical for John Wick for months. Great technique. Man, I'll tell you what, you guys are the authority on it. I don't know. I'll just take your advice on it. I'm just not quite sure. That is why I ask. Hey, JMV, you mentioned the Backyard Bourbon broadcast. Are those going to fire up again? Indeed, they will fire up again at the end of this month. We're going to be in somebody's backyard. I guess somebody's going to give me a heads up whenever we put that online at 1075thefan.com, and you're able to enter. But, yes, we are going to be in somebody's backyard, obviously staying safe, being safe, but I'm going to have a lot of damn fun. You're going to have a lot of damn fun. And we're going to do the first one for the summertime coming up at the end of this month. And Heaven Hill Distillery, that's Brent Holverson and Randy Strand on board. Larceny Bourbon, Evan Williams, all the products under the umbrella of Heaven Hill Distillery. Fat Tire Beer is on board. Shout out to New Belgium Brewery. Ing. Fat Tire is on board. And we always need the hydration that is Connecticut. Hey, listen, I've known this for years. If you're going to go and you're going to party the way that these Backyard Bourbon broadcasts are partied out, you've got to have ample and the best hydration. John, Joe, and Dennis of Connecticut is on board with it, too. It's pretty funny. So that starts at the end of this month. And I'm assuming somebody will tell me whenever we can sign up. 107.5 The Fan. You can keep checking that, and once I find out, I'll tell you, and we are off and running. It shall be spectacular. Hey, JMV, I've heard you talk about this over and over the past 3 weeks, yet there is still no deal, no common ground really with baseball. Why do you believe that baseball will be back? Well, I mean, I stay in communication with Tucker. Tucker tells me he feels that it's going to come back, so I agree and believe in what he says. And then ultimately, if you just want to say it this way, I think everybody should firmly understand, and you wonder why it's taken this long, but should firmly understand that they have to come back. Yeah, no matter what we're talking about, length of games-wise. You know, whether it's over 100 or if it's 76, I mean, over 100, there's no way now, right? But, you know, whether it's in the neighborhood of 70-plus or, as I mentioned, 48 last week is still my expectation. And it's not going to be to either side's liking totally. I think ultimately it's going to come down to the commissioner saying, all right, this is what's happening right here. And then there's probably going to be some unhappiness here. But it's just what I've been told. And then ultimately it's how I feel about the sport in general. And knowing that you do this and you don't play. And I mean, you've got a long-term future issue that to me will so outweigh what you dealt with in 94 that you have no idea. And there's probably a lot of folks out there listening to me right now that they don't firmly remember what happened in 94. I do. I mean, that took a chunk out of baseball for a number of years. Times 100, times 1,000? Without question. So that's why I'm confident. But I will tell you this. I mean, we had heard maybe July the 4th, and there's such an opportunity being missed right here. You know, before any other of these sports get back underway, you could have baseball out there, and you could occupy so many eyeballs. That is a swing and a miss opportunity for sure. But do I think it's going to get back? Yeah, I think it's going to get back, and it's going to be lumped into everything else in a television viewing fight for eyeballs. Without question. But a missed opportunity, if you're asking me about a missed opportunity, there's no doubt about that. It is. Because you fire that thing up July the 4th, somewhere around that, and that would be a brilliant strategy. But you just can't come together, and you're just now hoping to find something. Hey, JMV, it looks like Wolf of Wall Street is on IFC at 9 on Friday and 5 on Saturday. 9 on Friday is where I shall be. Having only seen the kind of edited version, the FX edited version. And, man, FX, they go to commercial every 5 minutes on FX. Hey, quick, speaking going to commercial, let's do that right now. Zak Keefer, top of the hour, The Athletic. A lot of Colts stuff, including the type of value they're going to get from tight end compared to the type of value that Phillip Rivers has had to deal with in the past, especially the past seasons in which he's had a high level of success. We'll talk to Zach about that and more coming up. Other side, next.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Paris Campbell joins us.
I've overcome things throughout my life, but I could never pinpoint something that was just so drastic in my life. For me to go through my playing career, never dealing with serious injuries, never having surgery, it pulled me away from the game. It put me in a dark place mentally. It put me in a dark place emotionally. It was just something that I had to look myself in the mirror and I had to make the choice. Was I going to take the situation head on or was I going to run?
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, it's Indiana's best. It's Andy Moore, Toyota. It's in Avon. It's 5 miles west to 465 on US 36. And just another layer of car buying greatness from Ben Mendoza and the staff over there, where you can easily view the car, truck, or van of your choice online. AndyMooreToyota.com. You don't even have to go to Avon if you don't want to. You can find out everything about that ride of your choice online, AndyMooreToyota.com. They'll tell you all about it. And then call Ben Mendoza and let Ben go to work for you. Again, the best car buying experience at one place. And even if you're not at the place, online, AndyMooreToyota.com. But rest assured, they're taking care of absolutely everything with your health and safety in mind out in Avon, following all CDC recommended guidelines, testing their employees, making sure everybody is healthy, and considering your peace of mind and well-being. It is the best car buying experience that is now even better. Tell Ben Mendoza I sent you to Andy Moore Toyota in Avon, 5 miles west to 465 on US 36.
Here's what's happening with the Fan.
The 9th annual Tom Doggage Memorial Golf Outing honoring the healthcare heroes of Franciscan Health is on July 13th at Golf Club of Indiana. Register you and your team now. The Fan and Pepsi have teamed up to support our local indie restaurants by creating the Pepsi Dan Doggage Deal of the Day. For $20, we're bringing you the best deals from local indie restaurants. Visit the Fan's website to find out the best deals and locations. For more information, just click on 1075thefan.com.
We buy any car. We buy any car. We buy any car. Any.
Trading in or selling your car, truck, or SUV? WeBuyAnyCar.com takes the hassle out of selling in just 3 easy steps. 1. Get your free online valuation. 2. Drive to your local car buying center. And 3. Walk out with your check in as little as 30 minutes. So don't wait. Get your free online valuation now at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Find out how much your car's worth at WeBuyAnyCar.com.
Pierce Jewelers, Carmel's full-service jewelry store, is now open and buying gold to help those needing cash during this economic crisis. So be safe. Shop local, shop smart, shop PierceJewelers.com.
This is Indy Sports Center. WFNI, WIBC HD2,
W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis.
As your favorites resume play, we're here to give you the latest. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Get him a body bag! Yeah!
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
What you fancy? I'm John. Thank you for joining us. 5 o'clock hour. Anybody received any inclement weather other than gusty winds and some rain yet? I don't see anything out there. I can never tell out here. It appears downtown in the circle, if I look across the circle to the northeast and I see the flag atop the Columbia Club, it appears to be stiff. Is it raining out there right now? I haven't seen any lightning or anything like that. I could never tell in the studio. But there is some stiffness going on with the wind across the circle right now. So, yeah, weather updates we'll have to grab coming up a little bit later on. All right, a little bit earlier, Chris Denari joined us. Greg Rakestraw also on the show. Tomorrow, Bowen's going to be with us. And it appears Philip Rivers, I thought, was meeting with the media today. It is tomorrow via Zoom because Philip Rivers is now in town. And to join us to talk about that from The Athletic, it is Zak Keefer. All right, I kind of, I don't think we've talked about this. It occurred to me that in the past, and I mean especially the high productive past of Philip Rivers, he has had tremendous tight end play. At what level of tight end play? Because it's something we haven't discussed very much around here because it hasn't been hot button as other positions on this team. What level of tight end play do you expect Rivers to get as a 38-year-old quarterback here?
This is a good point because we haven't talked about it, and I'm a little skeptical. Let's go through this. I know that a lot of people out there follow the Eric Ebron situation closely. There was no way they were going to bring him back. I probably said it on your show in November and December, and then Chris Ballard came out and said, 0 chance. Look, they're losing a good player in Eric Ebron. I know that he had a lot of drops, and there was some stuff behind the scenes with attitude and demanding the ball that ruffled the feathers wrong in West 56th Street, but the guy was a mismatch waiting to happen, and Reich got him fed in 2018. I mean, the dude had like 14 touchdowns. I think 15 if you count the rushing one. So let's not discount the subtraction of Eric Ebron. There was a lot there, but the dude made plays. They don't have that this year. They do not have that this year. They have Jack Doyle. We all know how consistent that guy is. They have Trey Burton, and I think Trey Burton can be a really nice piece. He was good in Philadelphia, but there's no guarantee there. I don't know where he is physically. I think he's very close to being back all the way. But this is a guy that barely got on the field last year due to injuries, and that's a huge question mark. And I'm not ready to say he's going to be the next Eric Ebron because that's way too premature. Beyond that, they really, really like Mo Alley-Cox, like more than they probably should. But Mo Alley-Cox deserves a lot of credit for the offensive line's growth the last couple of years. He gets overshadowed, but he does a lot of those blocks himself too. But I'm not ready to say it's going to be as good as last year. It's definitely not going to be as good as 18 because you had Ebron, at a Pro Bowl level. So that's a really good point you make. Rivers had Antonio Gates, for so long in San Diego, and they don't have that kind of player right now.
I'm just kind of curious, too, regarding Eric Ebron. I think the level of quarterback play also affected Ebron. And that's not a shot at Matthew Stafford in his days at Detroit. But certainly, he had his signature season by virtue of being able to utilize Andrew Luck. And we saw how last year the quarterback play, affected other players in their production, and it also affected the playbook. It affected the play calling from Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, they had to change the playbook in a big way on August 25th. You know what I mean? The day after Luck retired. And I know they came out and said, we're the same team, it's the same offense. It wasn't. I had multiple players tell me that. Like, they ran some plays that they would have never run with Luck. And they ran a lot of plays in 18 they didn't run last season. And you saw, you remember how creative the offense was in 18 and how they kept defenses on their heels. And there was a lot of plays when, two eyes wide open in the end zone. How did they scheme that up? You didn't see that last year.
How many times do you remember? And I don't mean to interrupt. I want you to continue. I'll forget it if I don't ask. How many times do you remember last year them going for it as cavalier as they did on fourth down in the first year of Frank Reich here?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I certainly don't remember it. And I did the numbers in 18, and I've talked to Frank about this, and he knew that they were number one in the league in terms of going for it on fourth downs. And this past season, they were not close to that. They went for it on a lot of them, but I think Baltimore was ahead of everybody, and we know why. But look, all of that played into that. And they like the running game, but they're not nearly as dangerous when it's a one-dimensional attack. And the longer Brissett played, the more they became one-dimensional, and they weren't aggressive. And that's not how Frank Reich wants to call the game.
Zak Keefer of the Athletics on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I want to double back to the tight end position. You mentioned Mo Alley-Cox, and about a month ago, Frank Reich told you guys via Zoom that Mo Alley-Cox was going to have a lot more of an opportunity this year. First of all, in what capacity would that be to you? And then secondly, how much more of an opportunity can you have? Because when you look around, you have a lot of guys that are still kind of waiting to prove themselves offensively, but you've got a lot of folks saying, hey, send it my way, I think, before you even look Mo Alley-Cox's direction.
It's a good question because it's hard for me to see Mo Alley-Cox having a huge upgrade in production. I'm not saying he can't make great plays because he will, and we've seen him make amazing catches like he did against Oakland a couple of years ago, but he's not a mismatch. He's not a guy that's going to beat you with speed down the field. He can win the jump ball. We've seen that. But there's other guys that can win the jump ball. Michael Pittman Jr. comes to mind. And look, you're still going to feed Jack Doyle 6-7 times a game because that's not going to change. He's so damn dependable. but you're going to have an added emphasis to get the ball down the field to T.Y. Hilton. That's why you're paying Phillip Rivers $25 million. You're not going to just have T.Y. disappear, kind of like he did late last season, partly due to the injury. But like you said, you're going to have to get the ball to Paris Campbell. You're going to get the ball to Marlon Mack and Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines out of the backfield. Where does that leave Mo Cox? There might be a couple games where he has some big catches, but I still feel like in terms of offensive weapons and where you're going to look with the ball, he's pretty far down the list, maybe 8 or 9 right now.
Yeah, I agree. Yet I think it's essential for this team to have ample production, which Phillip Rivers at that position is used to. And I've kind of described Trey Burton as this. I mean, it's low risk, high reward. The Bears are, I think, paying most of his salary. But even if he's going to be here, I think there is a certain expectation that he is able to produce. And I think that there categorically is a need for him to produce at that position this year.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned this enough. If there's one coach that loves tight ends, it's Frank Reich. He loves them. I mean, he pushed hard for them to go out and sign Eric Ebron 2 years ago. That was the first big offensive signing they made that year. They gave him $16 million over 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. And this is a guy that was basically a first-round bust in Detroit. And, according to the Detroit News, like the number one hated guy in town. So not a popular guy, not a productive guy in Detroit, a lot of drops, a lot of issues. They went out and paid him because Frank Reich needs that position in his offense. Trey Burton is not Eric Ebron. I don't think he's going to be a Pro Bowler this year. I don't think we're kidding ourselves in that regard. But like you said, it's super cheap money. It's like league minimum. So if you get half of the production you got from Ebron in 18, you're going to be really happy. Because remember, you didn't have Jack Doyle for almost the entire 18 season, and you still made 10 wins in 11 games. You made the run, you made the playoffs, and all that. So. But you could tell, I mean, if you go back to last year, you could tell in the red zone when they didn't have Ebron. Ebron was a monster in the red zone. Teams could not find him, and he had great hands for the most part in 18, and he was such a weapon down there. Frank Reich loves having that guy. Don't be surprised if they use Burton in a little bit of the same role because he's got speed, he's got mismatch, and he's very familiar with the system Reich wants to run from their days in Philadelphia.
So Zak Keefer, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So we talked to the Pro Football Focus guys last week. They had Quentin Nelson ranked 4th of the top 50 players going into this year in the NFL, which for an offensive guard is incredibly stratospherically high. And then Daniel Jeremiah joined us on Friday and just flat out said there is more of an argument as to why you would not think in this case, I hope I'm saying this right, Quentin Nelson is the best offensive lineman in the NFL as opposed to why he is, because that's just how people around the NFL view Nelson. In your opinion, is he the best offensive lineman in the league as we sit here and talk right now?
Boy, it'd be hard to think of another one. And I really like watching offensive linemen, especially the really good ones, because it's such a hard position. I love watching tackles, but, I've lived Nelson's complete overhaul of this offensive line, and I don't want to take credit away from the other guys. Costanzo's been great. Ryan Kelly's a Pro Bowler. But, man, this kid changed the entire complexity of this offensive line the minute he got to town. And I remember texting Chris Ballard, and I don't think he'll mind me sharing this, and, he was adamant. There were some games in 17 where he was just tired of watching his team get their ass kicked. And Jacksonville Jaguars game comes to mind. 10 sacks on Jacoby Brissett, and Ballard basically said I was tired of watching us get beat up. And so you make the case, and I've argued with Mike Chappell for years. Like Chap is just adamant. You don't take a guard at 6. You don't take a guard at 6. Well, you take Quentin Nelson at 6 if he's going to be a Hall of Famer. I don't care what position he's going to play. If he's going to be a Hall of Famer, you take him at 6. And Nelson right now, I mean. You haven't even seen what this guy's going to do in the league. I mean, I talked to him right at the end of the season, and he doesn't give away a lot in interviews, but he was pretty honest with me at how pissed off he was about everything and the way things ended and the way the Colts couldn't finish games and the way he was playing. And so he seemed like a guy that was going to get in the weight room very, very quickly and get even bigger. And he wanted to set the tone from the minute they got back together for spring workouts. This is a guy that's going to be very motivated heading into year 3. And, I mean, we're talking like 10 Pro Bowls. I mean, that's the possibility for this guy. That's how good he's going to be.
Past conversations most of the time would not allow anybody that would have the opinion that a guard could be, the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Normally, that would have to be a tackle, and probably most exclusively the left tackle.
Yes.
When the way that you look at, and the way that other NFL people now look at those that play on the interior of both the offensive and defensive lines, has there been a not so subtle shift over the past 3-4 years?
Yes, there has been, and the money reflects that. The money they're paying guards, the money they're paying tackles. And I mean defensive tackles. I mean like DeForest Buckner, and obviously Aaron Donald's in a class by himself. But and the Colts fans who are smart, the Colts fans who've been following this team, I think they really get this. I think they really respect and appreciate the way Ballard has built the team and how different it's been from the way Ryan Grigson built the team. And I don't mean missing and hitting on draft picks. I mean Ballard went and attacked the inside first, and he was very adamant about it, and he was very stubborn about it. I mean, there were drafts where he was like, I'm just going all in on the line. And maybe it's not as sexy as wide receivers, but it works if it's not Philip Dorsett you're drafting. You know what I mean? So it's okay. I think this city welcomed Quentin Nelson despite the fact that he was a guard at 6. I mean, you watch the guy's tape at Notre Dame, and I think one of the scouts I talked to said he literally makes defensive meeting rooms uncomfortable just watching this guy. And there was a little talk, like we were like, Ballard, are you gonna move this guy to tackle? Is he too good to play on the interior? And Ballard's like, hell no, you don't move this guy from where he's at. So you've seen the transformation he's had on this line and how much different all of them play. And he's a huge factor in why Anthony Costanzo's had his best 2 seasons the last 2 years. And in AC's words, he's a huge factor in why Costanzo decided to return for this 2-year deal that he's on right now. And that would have been a huge headache this offseason. But Quentin's changed the whole way they're going to play football. And you're right. There used to be really, really high numbers on the outside for the left tackles because they protect the blind spot and for the edge rushers. But the money is moving back inside. Look at what the San Francisco 49ers did and how they built their defensive line. That's how the Colts want to win. And you're seeing that with 2 of their best players, Buckner and Nelson.
Zach, this is really far. I shouldn't say really far, but further down the road. Do you think there's a chance? And I guess ideally, if that chance does come to fruition, that means that this team with Rivers has had a great deal of success, and that means 2 years. But is there a chance in 2 years that this team will be searching for both its future quarterback and its future left tackle in the same year?
Oh, yeah. Totally possible.
I haven't thought much about that, but, and that's funny because I think that would come with the good. You know what I mean? I think that only comes with the good because the bad dictates that Rivers doesn't stay here 2 years if he doesn't have that level of play and this team is not playoff worthy. The good means he is here for 2 years, and you're probably looking at that, I think, 2 years down the road.
I can tell you it's something that keeps Chris Ballard up at night because I've talked to him about it, and he knows. He knows this quarterback situation is not solved. He knows that Jacob Eason is no sure thing. And he knows that Rivers is 38, and they like the situation they're in, and they bought themselves time so they don't have to panic, which is probably a pretty smart move because they didn't have to reach in the draft. But at the same time, for the first time in a long time, there is no franchise quarterback on this roster. There is no player that makes you feel really good about the next 5-6 years on this team. And like Ballard has said a couple times since February, like these fans are going to see how the other half live. Browns fans and Dolphins fans who've been searching for quarterbacks forever, they didn't panic. They didn't put themselves in a spot where they had to go find a quarterback in the draft, which I think is a smart move. But they don't have a plan for 2022 and 2023. Maybe Eason works out. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe Rivers plays 2 years. But the one thing I wouldn't rule out, and it's probably a long shot, but the team has not ruled this out. Jacoby Brissett could return as the starting quarterback down the line. Now, he's going to be a free agent after this year, and he's going to be a backup to Phillip Rivers. But I'm telling you, they love Jacoby Brissett, and they think he's going to improve, and they have not ruled out the fact that he could return in a starting role for this team down the line. We have to see how this goes. We have to see how Rivers plays this year. And Eason is in the wings, and if this kid's good and if he gets some time in the system, he could really be good. But Jacoby's not necessarily headed out of town without a doubt at the end of the season.
Man, I'd like to see if we were betting something right now, how much money we'd bet on him returning. Because we haven't heard exactly, other than I think a XFL game sideline quick snippet. We haven't heard anything from Jacoby about any of this.
Trust me, I've tried. And he was a little, and I have a story coming out tomorrow on The Athletic about sort of the dynamics of the quarterback room and how much it's changed since all this offseason happened. And look, I mean, not mincing words here, Jacoby was not happy when they made the move to sign Rivers. Frank called him. He told him they're making the move. Jacoby was not happy. And it was really hard for him for a couple of weeks. And when they started their quarterback meetings, those are really the starters. They run those. And he was in a different spot. And he was a little bit quieter than normal. So, he had to feel out Phillip Rivers. They had to get to know each other. And I know they're both NC State guys, but it's not like they were teammates before, and there's such difference in age that, they had to get to know each other a little bit. But it sounds like these guys are getting along really well right now. And then you've got Jacob Eason, the young kid, and you've got Chad Kelly as well. Such a different quarterback room than it was a year ago at this time.
Does Jacoby Brissett still stay in touch with Bill Parcells, as far as you know?
Yeah. No, Bill Parcells loves Jacoby Brissett. If you get him on the phone, he will talk your ear off on that kid. Have
you tried to go that angle on anything yet?
Not since the end of this season. Parcells is a little tricky. He'll talk to you, but he won't go on the record a lot. And Jacoby, I think Jacoby has tried to stay pretty quiet this offseason.
Yeah, it is weird because I know that they like him. I know that they like him in the way that you put that. Well, he could be, but they still paid $25 million for a 38-year-old man to come here and there and do his job. So they like him, but there's a bar, there is a level in which, as a quarterback, they like him, and that's that.
And the other angle is, they love him, and they say how much they love him, and they went and signed Rivers to take his job. They're also going to pay Jacoby $20 million plus this year to be a backup, which is great money for any player in this league besides a starting quarterback. He's going to be the highest paid backup in football this year. He's going to make starter money.
Yeah.
So there's two angles to that. It's like, well, we like you this much, and we want you to stay. And it's interesting because I just don't know how this is going to play out this year. I don't know what his market is going to be if he doesn't play this year. Who's going to go out and sign him as a starter? I'm not sure he's earned that opportunity in a way that like a Teddy Bridgewater has or someone like that.
Yeah, you still have Cam Newton, for example, floating around out there too. So
yeah,
I don't see it because you would have thought. Especially with what everybody says, and I know that you talk to a lot of folks. We talked to Clyde Christensen about this with Tom Brady, and we've talked to others. This year, beyond all others, is going to be incredibly awkward, and cohesion is going to be really necessary because you're just not going to get that with new players coming in here as you usually do. So you would think that if a team really did have any thought about Jacoby Brissett, that need would have been addressed long ago because you just don't have any time to try to implement somebody into something new. And for some of these teams that already has, it's still going to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's going to be the interesting part about Rivers and this new system and all the new quarterbacks and all the new situations. And I know Rivers is pushing for this team to get together next week and get some work in, I think, is at Grand Park. But it sounds like a lot of the players are going to be there. So, that's what you want to see, but you think we're pushing this too far on Rivers? You think this guy's still got to play and prove it, right?
There's no question about it.
Are we taking the Colts' words too much on this guy?
He wasn't, and I will say this: Daniel Jeremiah, who's at Move the Sticks, works for the NFL Network, is also the Chargers analyst.
He calls Chargers games, correct? Yeah.
And he gave me an angle that I hadn't heard yet from somebody that not only watches him and saw every game and every snap, but I'm sure does the tape work on it as well. He thinks that this is going to be a complete reclamation project here, as far as breathing new life into Phillip Rivers as opposed to what he had while in Southern California. But you are right. There is still a lot of hope. I've always viewed it like this. There are those out there that hope that he is going to be really good, And there are those out there that are just glad they're not going in the same direction as they did a year ago. I don't know how many people believe him to be can't miss.
Exactly. You hit it on the head. It's not Jacoby Brissett, and that's what gets them excited. And Rivers will probably be a step up, and I get that. And he's going to release the ball quicker, and I get that. But here's maybe an unpopular opinion, but I honestly believe this, and I've talked to some people about this. I didn't think the offensive line was as good last year as they were in 18. I don't know if that's because they made the position coach change. I don't know if that's because somebody slipped, but I felt like there was a lot of situations where Jacoby was running for his life. And I don't mean 4 or 5 seconds into the snap. I mean right away. I thought the line maybe took a little bit of a step back last year. Now, they could be great this year. I'm totally on board with that. They're still an elite offensive line. But that's everything for Rivers, right? That's why he came here. I think he told the coaches that right after he signed, like, look, I can't wait to play with Costanzo and Nelson and Kelly. I get that. But Jacoby saved the offensive line in a lot of situations last year, and I think a lot of people have forgotten this. Jacoby's not fast. He's not Michael Vick back there, but he's got some slippery qualities to him. And I think a lot of us were surprised in the press box at how many sacks he avoided. So let's not forget that, because Rivers ain't avoiding those sacks.
Yeah.
I mean, Frank Reich has said flat out, like, this guy's a statue back there. So, look, he's going to have a better offensive line than L.A. I get that. But let's not also discount that this line had some ups and downs last year, and Jacoby saved them from a lot of sacks. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, and the change in offensive line coach was something that Rick Venturi has discussed on here, and really we haven't discussed too much after that too. And I think some want to blame the fact that it's not luck and it is but yeah, I think you're right. I mean, as far as that line's overall play was concerned, I think obviously you would view it better in that final season of luck when they went back to the postseason as opposed to what you got from it this past year.
Yeah, and the thing about that was you can tell what a good football team looks like when you see it, because that team didn't need luck to go crazy. They didn't need him to throw for 400 yards. For the first time in his career, he had time. He could pick defenses apart, and they made it look easy because the run game was working, because everything was in sync. The line changed that. They were the engine behind that offense. Last year, it was one-dimensional. Jacoby didn't have time. He did have time. Nothing ran sort of in sync last year. And I'm not absolving the line of blame for that. And I've talked to players on that line who said that they didn't finish the way they wanted to. So, look, I mean, they're going to be really good. They've got some elite players on the offensive line, but let's not just shoe in the fact that they're going to be the best line in football this year, because they weren't last year. They just weren't.
Yeah, it's funny, too, because that's how people view them. And I guess that's just how incredibly bad the Charger offensive line was, because everybody thinks
they were
terrible. I mean, everybody thinks that that Rivers is getting like the Troy Aikman under center offensive line he had with the Cowboys back in the heyday.
Yeah, and I talk to people who really, really know the Chargers well, and they say, look, it was bottom 5 in the NFL. And when you've got a guy who can't move, and a team that's just fallen apart like they were last year, I think they went 4-12. I get it. I've covered those seasons. That's how it goes. I think it's a really good spot for him, but I just don't know how much of an upgrade he's going to be from Jacoby Brissett, because, I'm not Jacoby Brissett's agent. He wasn't terrific by any means last year, but it'll be interesting to see how much of a step up Rivers is. I don't think it's going to be a huge, huge step up.
If that change is not made, though, the interest level of this team, especially going through what we've gone through, is drastically different right now.
Well, you know what happens is you start getting calls for Jacob Eason, whether he's ready or not.
Well, I get Chad Kelly. I get Chad Kelly ones first. Jacob Eason hasn't set his great
can that one be over?
His greatness hasn't set in yet. We're still working on the Chad Kelly greatness here.
All right, when you get those tweets from people saying he's the next coming, send them to, I know they can't come to training camp this year, but if they could, they need to come to training camp, and they need to see what Chad Kelly looks like at training camp. He's not been terrible, but he's not a starter in the NFL. I've seen it every day. The coaches see it every day. They're not hiding some great talent as a third stringer, I promise you that.
Yeah, they kind of keep it rolling, though, by, he's around and
Right. They keep teasing that. Yeah, they keep teasing the Chad Kelly fans.
Yeah, but listen, before too long, it's going to be Jacob Eason, because I cringe every time somebody talks about his incredibly mammoth arm and this and that. And I think there was something with – did you have this or somebody else have the story regarding what Mike Leach said about his arm? And I go, oh, boy.
So I dug into Jacob Eason. I don't know who this kid is. I want to find out what he's about. So I called all his high school coaches, his college coaches, and, I mean, they love the kid. 2, they know he needs a little bit of work. But the stories they told about his arm, it almost sounds like he's Paul Bunyan. I mean, this guy, there was an NFL quarterback I talked to who played behind Marino and Elway and Aikman, and he said that there's going to be a couple throws a game whenever this guy starts. And he knows who he's talking about. He's talking about Colts fans who have watched Luck and Peyton over the years. He says there's going to be a couple throws a game from Jacob Eason that take your breath away.
Who was the quarterback you talked to?
Hugh Millen. He's
out there, Hugh Millen. Hey, that's awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm doing my work.
Nice work.
He
right there. Nice
he works
work
out there in Washington, and he knows the kid real well. I
was going to guess John Kitna, but that wouldn't fall in line. But that Hugh Millen, that's nice work.
Yeah, it's he knows his stuff. I mean, he was talking about the days watching Favre. He was talking about the biggest throwers he ever saw. He said Elway and Favre had the biggest arms, and he said Eason's got one of the 5 biggest arms in football right now.
Oh no! Now you just said that here. You've started it now. Thank you.
Now the hype train has started, right? So it's going to be, what, week 3 or week 4? We're going to start hearing calls for Jacob Eason?
Well, you know what's funny? You know who will cringe about that more than even I will?
Ballard.
Oh, my goodness. You'll probably get a text in a second cussing you out.
I would welcome it. After the draft, we asked, what's the long-term potential? And, I mean, it was a pretty legitimate question, right? Where do you see this guy in a couple of years? And Ballard's like, slow your roll. He's not the Messiah.
Slow your roll.
We didn't say he was a Messiah, man. He's a 4th-round pick.
But Ballard,
I think they intentionally are downplaying expectations for him.
Ballard goes 90s references right there. I'm waiting for that. Well, he's all that in a bag of chips or something like that one of these days. Well, 90s reference. So that's well done out of you, man. It really is. Zak Keefer of The Athletic. You can read his latest is with regard to coming up, Zach. What?
Well, Jacob Eason is up and the greatest arm in league history, as we just discussed. And I got one coming tomorrow morning on the changing dynamic in the quarterback room and kind of how Brissett's feeling out Phillip Rivers and how Jacob Eason's fitting in. So an interesting look at that quarterback room and how much it's changed.
When everybody jumps on the Jacob Eason hype train, blame Zak Keefer of The Athletic.
I'm going to blame my story. Yep.
Do it.
I've been there before, though, so I'm used to it.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Zak Keefer of The Athletics on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Here we go. That'll be good, though. JMV, I haven't been a fan since 94. See, my friend Jeff Seltzer says he hasn't been a fan of baseball since 94. Big junior fan, was going for the home run record that year. Didn't happen. Have not been a fan since. Well, in times that by whatever lofty number you want to put in, if these guys do not participate at some point and finish out or begin and have a shortened season, it'll be like that times whatever huge, lofty number you want to come up with. True story. That's good stuff with Zach. Let me take a quick break and come back. Greg Rakestraw, Chris Denari, Zak Keefer, Podcast 107.5. TheFan.com. All right, other side. I got you, me, 239-1070. If you want to play off of some of that Colts conversation, we can certainly do that. And I'll tell you when we expect to get you signed up, hopefully, to be able to do this show in your backyard. It's called the Backyard Bourbon Broadcast. It is back for 2020. I shall explain to you all the specifics and how much you should want this at your place for the first time coming up at the end of this month. That's up next. 93.5, 107.5, and 1070 The Fan.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Former Colt Darius Butler, take me inside an NFL locker room where you have all kinds of different people after a summer like this.
And I think this offseason obviously is
like no other with the pandemic. And then now you have the protests, all these things that are kind of working together. It's really going to come down to the leadership, the guys that are in the leadership positions, I think.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Swipe right much? At VergeCredit.com, we believe finding the right personal loan is a lot like finding someone to swipe right on. When it comes to finding the right match, you don't want any sketchy profiles. And you're more than just your desirability factor. Same applies when finding a personal loan. You deserve a loan that comes with full transparency, one that doesn't hide the details, a loan that says what you see is what you get. At VergeCredit.com, we believe in tailoring a loan that is personalized to fit you and your situation. So say bye-bye origination fees, catch you later prepayment fees, and peace out late fees. Because now there's a personal loan that comes with absolutely no shady fees whatsoever. We'll have you saying, you had me at no hidden fees. Find a good fit personal loan at VergeCredit.com. Trust us, you'll be swiping right. Lending decisions subject to eligibility, credit check, underwriting, and approval. Rates, terms, and conditions apply. Late payments, missed payments, or other defaults on your account may be reflected in your credit report. Loans are underwritten and originated in Salt Lake City, Utah by Stride Bank N.A. member FDIC and serviced by Verge Credit.
Hey, Johnny for Love Heating and Air Conditioning, 317-353-2141. The absolute best. John and Chris Love. Any of the needs for your cooling unit right now, whether it's just making sure it's running accurately, or if you need something new, you're going to find great prices, incredible craftsmanship and workmanship, and the absolute best from Love Heating and Air Conditioning at 317-353-2141. Think about this for a moment. It's been hot. It's been humid. How is your cooling unit getting the job done? Because if it isn't, it'll be uncomfortable in your place. If it isn't, it'll be uncomfortable for your wallet. That's an issue. Make sure that your cooling unit's doing its job at 317-353-2141. That's Love Heating and Air Conditioning. And no, they're following all CDC recommended guidelines to maintain your health and safety while giving you the absolute best service. It's Love Heating and Air Conditioning, 317-353-2141, online, love-hvac.com today.
Getting a home loan should be a fun experience. At the Home Loan Expert Office, we can close your loan in as little as 2 weeks, and you'll skip 2 full months of payments. TheHomeLoanExpert.com.
Sports Center updates on the Fan are brought to you by Big O Tires. Right now at Big O Tires, save up to $150 off a set of Big O brand tires through June 21st. Big O Tires, the team you trust.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Brian Baldinger. The priority should be to win the AFC South. I think it's all there for them. Tennessee is the Donnybrook, man. You know what you're going to get. I think that's the team that you got to really look at. Is the Tennessee Titans, what they did last year in the postseason. Those games against those teams, them in Houston, probably are going to determine who wins the AFC South.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings, 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Oh, wait just a minute. Didn't anybody knock anymore?
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You guys are funny, man. Seriously. JMV.
Okay.
Did Zak Keefer say Jacoby Brissett has a top 5 arm talent in the league right now? Ted Kelly, who? Way to go, Zach. It's on. That's beautiful. Fipsy. Keefer dropped his crack pipe. Pete says, when are you going to start Eason? Why, the wait. He's the next coming of football greatness. Start him. Man, you guys are fantastic. Right on top of it. Right on top of it. Hey, the one thing that I could not consider is when Zach referenced, hey, if it's not after 1 year, if you don't have one more year of Phillip Rivers, then you could see Brissett be the starter here after this year, after his final year. I can't see that at all. I don't see, and granted I had, 3 minutes to try to figure that out. I don't see how in the world that would work. And listen, nothing surprises me anymore, but that, I don't see how in the world that would work on any level. And Zach had mentioned that, what they had heard from Frank was, obviously Jacoby was upset when they decided to go the Phillip Rivers route. I just, outside of playing out, the end of his contract here, getting paid amply what he's getting paid here, and then coming in, if something happens to Rivers, that's going to be that. Is it not? That's going to be that. Because if you need somebody after this coming year, that means either Rivers got injured or Rivers was inadequate and the team didn't perform well, and you don't go back to Jacoby, you don't sign him for a year or two. I mean, that just if something like that happens, they're in deep what. That is the ultimate bad angle right there. I can't see that in any way, shape, or form. I mean, obviously this year injuries change everything. I mean, that part I think you can see, but coming back this year, man, I can't see that at all. It's interesting to discuss, though, and listen, we've got the time to discuss it, so what the hell? I just saw this. Jenna Fryer covers racing. Says that Tony Stewart will no longer do the Xfinity Series road course race at IMS. With multiple races in 2 series, the logistics for a one-off were just too much. Also, the point was lost for Stewart to entertain a home crowd with no fans in attendance. Kind of wondered about that when that decision was made last week that fans would not be there. So, yeah, Tony Stewart was going to jump back in and be a part of it. Alas, according to Jenna Fryer, now he will not. Coming up the weekend of July 4th. So, yeah, just some quick knowledge for you right there regarding that. That's too bad. That would have been fun. We need a lot of fun. I don't think there's any question about that. That would have been. Mark writes this, a swing and a miss. Baseball isn't interested in swinging, but that's fine with me. I haven't followed since they refused to play the World Series. I love me some baseball. And listen, get back on track and let the Reds win the Central, for goodness sake. Let me have like 1 year. Let me have one pandemic-ridden year. Come on. Give me something here. Just one season cut short due to the pandemic and let the Reds win the Central. Who's with me? Man, I knew you guys would take this Jacob Eason stuff and go next level with it. It's all right, though. Yeah, JMV, I completely agree with you. I can't see a way that he returns to be the quarterback. I can only see him being the quarterback if Rivers is injured. Yeah, I mean, longer term, I don't see it. I know that they constantly say they like him, and I believe they do like him. But, I mean, if you're him, I mean, you're going to get paid. You're going to be the backup, go in if you're called upon because, I mean, obviously you have you were a leader in that locker room. You have friends. They're still going to count on you if Phillip Rivers gets injured. But after that, done? I just can't see any other way. James, I completely agree with you on that. Listen, I had 3.5 minutes to try to think about how in the world that would work, and I can't come up with anything, any reason, any rational reason how that could work. Yeah, may have to give me the night to sleep on that one a little bit. That one I don't get. Hey, JMV, I heard you a little bit earlier say you've never seen John Wick. What's wrong with you? I don't know. There's something wrong with me. Jeff Yeri writes this, John Wick, watch. Wick 2, watch if you're drinking. Wick 3, watch if you've slid past the gateway drug and no longer have a sense of reality. So what? So does that make 3 the best or the worst, Jeff, in that analogy there? Help a guy out. James writes this, baseball is notorious for taking a big, giant crap in their hats when it comes to negotiations. Crap in the hats. Is Leslie a Reds fan? Oh, Leslie, Reds fan. Let's give a love fest to our Red Legs at 239-1070. Go ahead.
I just want to agree with you. I'm a diehard Red fan. I'd like to see them win the Central, too.
We got to see the season happen because it's going to happen, right? We've waited too long. And this would be, I think, typical Reds success fashion right here. You know what I mean? A pandemic-shortened season, this would go right along with it. So I'm in agreement with you right here.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm a Reds fan all the way back when it was Johnny Bench and them. I'm a Reds fan.
Leslie, thank you for the call, and I'm right there with you. The Reds will win the Central. But you got to start playing. You can only win the Central if you start playing. Or whatever it's going to be. Whatever it's going to look like. Is it going to be the Central? Everything's going to remain the same, right? The Reds could win the Midwest region. I don't care. Now's the time. Let's get something going. So I can talk junk. You know how long it's been since I've been able to talk junk about the Reds? How much junk I've had to take? Come on. The Cubs have won a World Series. The first time since the early 1900s. Junk I've had to take. It is weird. I don't know if Reds fans just have to pay for the big red machine and that level of greatness. Which, I mean, when you look at it, I know a lot of modern day folks would talk about, how the Yankees looked. But when you look at it back then and that team that they had assembled, I mean, especially 75 and 76, and then, in typical Reds fashion, those on the interior decide to take it apart. So, here's what we should do here. Let's go ahead and trade Tony Perez. We got to get Dan Dreesen in there. Pete Rose. All right, quick bit. I'm going to return on the other side. Hey, is Jonah going to wait? I want to get Jonah in coming up on the other side and give him more time. Hey, again, I forgot to mention this, how you can get us in your backyard with our friends from Heaven Hill Distillery with Connecticut water and Fat Tire Brewing. Fat Tire Beer in your backyard later on this month. I'll explain. We'll get the Jonas call, close out this Tuesday with you. Next.
It's the Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe.
Bill Yates.
The Colts are about to enter the third straight year with the same 5 offensive starters. There's like 5 teams in the NFL that have a chance to even make that streak 2 this year. There are enough pieces in place that the Colts will not behind the 8 ball relative to other teams within their division.
The Fan Morning Show with Jeff and Big Joe. Weekday mornings 7 till 10. Only on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kids, tell your parents about Forum Credit Union's Sprout of the Month contest, where you could win $100 in a Sprout account. Details at 1075thefan.com.
The housing market is really heating up and it's about to take off. Get pre-approved today with our 5-minute loan approval, only available at thehomeloanexpert.com.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Paris Campbell joins us.
I've overcome things throughout my life, but I could never pinpoint something that was just so drastic in my life. For me to go through my playing career, never dealing with serious injuries, never having surgery, it pulled me away from the game. It put me in a dark place mentally. It put me in a dark place emotionally. It was just something that I had to look myself in the mirror and I had to make a choice. Was I going to take the situation head on or was I going to run?
Dan Dockich, weekdays noon till 3 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. The Ride with JMV.
Well, you're going to have to say that. You're going to have to speak up because I can't hear you.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is my request for Kyle Udemark right there. You know who this is? A good time. Whoa, whoa.
This is Owl City with Carly Rae.
Carly Rae Jepsen.
I haven't heard this song in
Carly Rae Jepsen had one song that was just huge.
Call Me Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Owl City. Anybody remember Owl City?
This is something Laney should be listening to. This is up her alley.
Yeah. What the hell is Laney listening to? Well, I catch her singing sometimes, too. We have this thing, and I don't know if this makes me a bad dad or not, but I'll go, hey, Laney, come here. Hey, do you see what this says? And then I'll show her something that says, you're a fart knocker on it. So now we have this thing where we go around the house. The other day, she goes, hey, Dad, there's something wrong with my room. I go, what? And I walk in her room, and she goes, well, look at this. And she had fart knocker written on a dry erase board. My wife hates it. Well, I think it's kind of funny. Probably not. JMV at 1070thefan.com is the email address. Hey, JMV, I was watching YouTube Live the other day. It looks like you've lost weight. I don't know if I've lost weight. I don't think I've gained any weight. Maybe I have. All I've done is for the past 3.5 months is sleep. I mean, I guess I haven't overeaten, but it's not like I've gone on a diet or anything. I'm serious. All I've done is sleep. Did you see Brandon Knight, Rutgers assistant, with the shot across the bow of Duke? Yeah, I saw that. He's going to have some fun on Twitter, I'm sure. Regarding recruiting advantages and stuff that he talks about with ESPN. They'll be debating that on the early morning debate shows tomorrow. I promise you. Hey, how you can get us in your backyard later on this month. I'll explain in a second. Jonah's in Arizona at 239-1070. Hello, Jonah.
Hey, JMV, how are you?
I'm great. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you for the shout out earlier. I'm still around. Don't worry.
I'm glad you are. Thanks.
I love that you love your fans. That makes the show even more enjoyable.
Yeah, thank you.
So, just wanted to call in, and I've said it before. If baseball does not fix this, I just think it would be such a huge squandered opportunity to gain the fan base. But I'm a big Braves fan, but I've never minded the Reds, and I'm with you. Even though the Braves won their division last year, the Nationals still won the World Series in their own division. And that game against the Cardinals last year, when they gave up 10 runs in the first inning, made me so unbelievably mad. But I really think a Reds and Braves playoff series would be really intriguing, to be honest with you. And I really hope that. And I've always liked the Reds, because I definitely don't like the Cubs or the Cardinals.
Oh, yeah, you're right there with me right now. Yeah. I mean, that's my hope. Is what
I'm not really adding anything useful today, but I'm just saying I think that would be an intriguing matchup. I really just want to call and say hey.
It's all good, man. It's good to hear from you. Hey, lock it in on Saturday night too if you get the opportunity. All right.
I have my daughter, but I will try my best.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you, man.
And one last thing. I hope I get to see you in Vegas this year because, like I said, my 2020 goal is to buy you a beer in Vegas.
And that's going to probably happen. I mean, I'm assuming that bullseyeeventgroup.com is going to be having a trip to Las Vegas, provided everything has got a sense of normalcy attached to it. But in December, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I will be there if they do.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. I'll see you later.
That's my man Jonah right there. JMV at 1070thefan.com is the email address. JMV, I heard you talking about Dave Parker a little bit earlier on his 69th birthday. Can you name the starting infield for the 79 World Series champion Pirates? I mean, Parker was in the outfield, though. What do I got to name the infield? Willie Stargell played first. Phil Garner, scrap iron. Second, Tim Foley, short. Bill Madlock was at third base. Was it Madlock was with the Giants and then traded to the Pirates, I think? Or do I have that backwards? Ed Ott. Ed Ott was the catcher. And I'll put John Candelaria on the mound if you want. John Candelaria, Grant Jackson. And as you can see on YouTube, I'm not looking at anything right now. Just off the top of my head. That team ended up, I think, they beat the, look that up, they beat the Reds in 79 in the NLCS and then beat the Orioles in the World Series. I should be heartbroken over that. I think there was a lot of snow working in that locker room, too. Woo! There's some heavy snowfall in that locker room. Beat the Reds in the NLCS. And then beat Don Stanhouse in his red. He had the most incredible red afro ever. And the Baltimore Orioles back then. Jim's at 239-1070. Jim, go ahead. How are you?
JMV, awesome show, as always.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it.
Hey, I have been a long-term Reds fan, and I have been trying to pick my brain to remember the lineups from both teams from the Reds and the Athletics World Series. I can name a bunch. Can you grade me on this?
Oh, yeah. You want to go ahead and give it a shot right now?
I will. I'll go with the Reds first.
Okay.
I'm going to go with Perez, Morgan.
You're talking about the early 70s here.
Yes, this is yes. Oh, yeah, old school, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
Hell. All right.
And I'm just saying, because that was when I first started watching the Reds. I watched them a little bit when they got beat by Baltimore, the Orioles,
right.
in the series before with Brooks and Frank Robinson. But I'm talking about the next time they
was Perez there already, or was Lee May? Was Lee May at first in one of those?
I think May would have been
and Hal McRae was on one of those Reds teams too, right?
That's what I was. I think against the Athletics was Rose, Perez, Morgan, Concepcion, and I think Rose played third, and I think Hal McRae, and Cesar Geronimo. And I don't remember the other outfielder.
Griffey wasn't there yet. Griffey wasn't there yet.
I don't think he was there yet. And then their pitching staff, I think, was this Don Gullett and Jack Billingham, and I don't remember. And of course, the bench. But I think I don't remember the reliever.
That's a good call.
On the A's, they had Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
And Joe Rudy, Sal Bando, Bert Campaneris. Gene Tennis, I think he hit like a gazillion home runs as a catcher that year, and I think, and they had Raleigh Fingers, and I think they had Ken Holtzman on that staff too.
That is I tell you what, I got to run here, Jim, but that's a good recollection out of you right there.
Hey, I'm dusting off some cobwebs there, man.
Jim,
a long time.
You call anytime, Jim. Thank you. I probably knew 5 or 6 of the A's. I was better with the Reds on that. Rakestraw, Denari, Keefer. Shout out to Keefer for the Jacob Eason conversation that we'll live with forever now. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Kyle, great job today. Backyard Bourbon broadcast could be with you. More info on where and when you can sign up coming up on tomorrow's show. Kevin Bowen, too. Be safe. Have a great night.
Sports with Dan Dockich.
Hey, McMillan joins us.
A lot of this is about us in America working together. And I think in sports, this is something that we have shown and continue to show that all races can work together. When our guys are out there on the floor, we got a diverse group that work for the Pacers, and they display that ability to work together.
Dan Dockich, weekdays, noon till